Chapter 248. Recently, Su had been really depressed. Really depressed. Originally, she thought that Su Zhan would provide her with some funds so that she could cultivate faster. Who knew that this elder brother would say more haste, less speed? He told people to lock her in the family's cultivation room to meditate in seclusion. Meditate my ass. Although there was a lot of spiritual influence in the cultivation room, Su Wu didn't have a good aptitude. Her cultivation speed was incomparably slow. Right now, she was using the Yuling chant that Little White taught her. She had to nurture all sorts of weapons and mystical beasts, turning these weapons into her own mystical weapons and using this to accumulate her own cultivation. The more mystical weapons she nurtured, and the higher the level of the weapons, the more spiritual power she would obtain in the end. But there wasn't even a sword in the cultivation room. How was Su Wu supposed to advance? Su Wu helplessly meditated in the cultivation room. She didn't know that by the time she came out again, the entire Might City had changed. Because of Su Zhan's successive advancements, Su family was unparalleled in Might City. Even Xiao family had to avoid them. Xiao Yin and Longli, who were supposed to be cultivating at home, seemed to have been stimulated by Su Rue. The two left Might City one after another. Longli went out alone to train and search for an opportunity to break through. Apparently, Xiao Yin went to the imperial capital. The imperial capital had the biggest royal summoners academy in Orinda country. Xiao Yin's sister, Xiaoya, had entered that academy a few years ago. Although she wasn't a genius among geniuses, she was considered a figure in the small Might City. This was also why Xiao family had been the #1 family in Might City and hadn't declined. Now that Xiao Yin had left Might City in advance, Xiao family had quietened down. For a time, the entire Might City was quiet and peaceful. But how long could this peace last? There were many cities and towns around Might City. News of a genius appearing in Might City's Su family gradually started to spread. Plus, the rumors became more and more ridiculous. In the end, there were even people who said that Su Zhan found an ancient treasure in the Sunset Mountains, Su residence, in her courtyard. These past few days, Suya had been pulling a long face. As the saying goes, a tall tree attracts the wind. The Su family hadn't expanded yet, but they had already become a thorn in many people's eyes. Especially since Su Zhan had been in the limelight recently. Long Qianzhan had also vaguely mentioned it to Suya. Even the higher-ups were starting to pay attention to him. This definitely wasn't a good thing. He unknowingly walked to his son's courtyard. Before he entered, Suya heard a burst of laughter from inside. Su Liang's cooking is getting better and better. This meat is fat but not greasy. It's crispy on the outside and tender on the inside. I give you a 5-star rating. This was Su Wan's voice. At this time, she was sitting in Su Rue's arms, squinting her eyes to enjoy the delicious food that Su Liang had just roasted. On the other hand, Su Pei was carefully taking care of Whitey, who had obviously grown fatter. Eat, eat, eat. All you know is to eat. Seeing the scene in the courtyard, Su Ya's expression darkened, and he walked in angrily. Lord Patriarch. Seeing Su Ya's figure, Su Liang and Su Pei immediately stood up and greeted him. Su Wan also blinked and stood up from Su Rue's arms. Lord Patriarch, you haven't eaten yet, right? Do you want to eat some roasted meat? Suya was speechless. Can I even eat it? Why do you have such a big heart? Su Zhan, come with me. Su Ya's gaze landed on Su Rue, his tone unusually solemn. Oh. Su Rue slowly stood up and said carelessly, Wife, eat by yourself first. You don't need to leave any for me. Saying this, he quickly followed Suya out of the courtyard. Seeing the father and son walk far away, Little White stuck out his round belly and rubbed against Su Wan's feet. Su Wan, do you think that old man Suya dislikes you? I think he's planning on finding another wife for Master. I heard that Zhao family's girl, Zhao Chuiying, also advanced to grade 5 summoner. She's younger than you by a year. Plus, that Zhao family's young lady, TSK. Do you think Master will fall in love with someone else? Fall in love with someone else? Hearing Little White's words, Su Wan curled her lips carelessly. Then her gaze landed on Su Liang and Su Pei. Su Wan had been secretly observing these two while they were by her and Su Rue's side. The two's characters weren't bad, and they were loyal to her and Su Rue. They were good seedlings that could be nurtured without worry. Plus, Suwon thought of her family. The branch she was born in was a village far away from Might City. It was considered a remote mountain village. In the original plot, the original body, Suwon, became rivals in love with Suwoo because Xiao Yin fell in love with someone else. Suwoo was a female assassin to begin with. She obviously wouldn't show mercy to her enemies. Therefore, the original body became cannon fodder. After she became cannon fodder, the bestial tide came and many places were destroyed. Her family and clan all died in that bestial tide. Although Suwon didn't have any feelings towards the original body's family, since she inherited the original body's identity, she couldn't just watch as her family died. Right now, she and Su Rue needed manpower. They needed a lot of trustworthy people. Su Liang, Su Pei, do you guys want to become summoners? Suwon suddenly asked a question. The air in the courtyard froze for a moment. Third miss? Su Pei looked up and looked at Suwon with a complicated gaze. Of course I want to become a summoner, but I'm already 16 years old and I still can't successfully activate my spiritual power. Sigh. So what if you successfully activate your spiritual power? Su Liang couldn't help but put down the knife he used to cut his flesh. I successfully activated my spiritual power when I was 15, but unfortunately, I could only summon these useless magical weapons. I can cut meat, but I can't kill magical beasts. In Dongchuan mainland, being a summoner was the dream and yearning of many people. However, not everyone could become a summoner, and not all summoners could summon powerful, profound weapons and profound beasts. Although some people successfully activated their spiritual power when they were young, they couldn't summon powerful magical weapons and beasts. They could only be mediocre summoners for their entire lives. They couldn't be called summoners at all. Su Liang and Su Pei were both born in a branch family. When they were young, they were the family's hope. They were chosen to enter the main family when they were young and wanted to become powerful summoners. But now that a few years had passed, the two only became Su family servants. The only thing worth being gratifying was that they were lucky enough to meet two masters with high status and good tempers. Seeing their complicated expressions, Suwon couldn't help but say again, if I can help you guys become powerful summoners, but the price is your entire life. Are you guys willing to try? As long as you're willing to swear on your souls that you won't betray me and the master, I'll ask the master to teach you the method to become a summoner. Third miss, are you serious? Su Liang and Su Pei's eyes reddened hearing Suwon's words. We're willing to follow you and the master. We won't betray you guys. The two wanted to swear on the lamp right now. Seeing their reactions, Suwon felt really satisfied. A wastrel's counterattack? As long as they had a strong enough cheat, any wastrel could counterattack. Anyone could become the main character of their life. As the female lead of this world, Su Wu's greatest advantage was the Yuling chant. What if all the people with poor aptitudes in the Su family learned the Yuling chant? All wastrels could become powerful summoners step by step as long as they worked hard and had resources. Chapter 249. While Suwon was giving Su Liang and Su Pei an olive branch, Su Rue also casually told Suya his plan in the Su residence's master's study. Hearing that Su Rue wanted to gather all the branches and family members who didn't succeed in activating their spiritual powers, Suya was shocked by his son's generosity. Jean, I don't doubt the Yuling chant you mentioned, but those people who failed in activating their spiritual powers have really poor aptitudes. Their characters aren't good either. If we use all the resources to nurture them, the other people in the family will probably have an opinion. Suya was a knowledgeable and ambitious person. He wasn't narrow-minded, but as the patriarch of a large family, he had to consider the entire family's benefits and honor most of the time. Father is right. Hearing Su Zhan's words, Su Rue couldn't help but nod. Father, you just need to summon everyone who failed the spiritual awakening but still desires to become a summoner. Suwon and I will do the rest. Everyone? No age limit? Suya furrowed his brows. In his opinion, the younger the person, the more potential they had. Those who failed in activating their spiritual powers for many years and became ordinary uncles and aunties. What right did they have for the family to waste resources on them? Ambition doesn't depend on age. Su Rue didn't agree with Suya's thoughts. In Dongchuan, mainland, summoners had a long lifespan. As their rank increased, their lifespan would get longer and longer. Compared to hundreds and thousands of years of lifespan, 30 or even 50 or 60 years of age were nothing. Even if some people were close to 70 years of age, they still had hope and dreams in their bones. People like this were far better than those young people who had just reached adulthood and had no achievements. Okay. Since it's your decision, then let's do it. In the end, Suya compromised with Su Rue. In his opinion, the bigger the commotion, the better. This was beneficial to the Su family. These days, there were always some people and forces that wanted to peek at Su Zhan's secret. Then Suya might as well make this big. It'd be best if the entire Orinda country knew about it. A man's wealth was his own ruin. Suya knew his own limits. If the Su family really had some heaven-defying treasure or cultivation method, there would be a day when they would be annihilated. This time, he might as well be generous. While increasing the strength of the Su family, he could also sell a favor to the imperial family. Genre, make a copy of that Yuling cultivation technique using a spirit slip. I'll bring it directly to the imperial capital. So you had heard Su Rue tell him about the effects of this cultivation method. It did sound magical, but it was only suitable for people with poor aptitudes. Plus, if this cultivation method was unique, it could allow people to soar. But now, Su Rue planned on promoting this cultivation method to the entire Orinda country. In the future, it would become a new school of summoners. Countless people would fight for the limited resources. How much could they develop in the end? Of course, even though he said that, this was still a great innovation in Dongchuan's history. From now on, countless new summoners would be born. These summoners would never forget the Su family and Su Zhan. Thinking that his Su family might go down in history because of this, Su Ya's heart surged. Su Rue smiled faintly hearing Su Ya's words. As expected, Su Ya was an understanding person. The best way to keep a secret was to make it not a secret anymore. The father and son's discussion about the Yuling cultivation technique ended with everyone being happy. Before Su Rue left the study, Suya seemed to have suddenly thought of something and couldn't help but stop him. Genre, it's old Master Zhao's birthday in a few days. Father is about to leave Might City and head to the imperial capital. Go attend their birthday banquet on my behalf and get closer to Miss Zhao while you're at it. Zhao family? Su Rue paused hearing Su Ya's words. I'm not interested in the Zhao family. Cough. Suya coughed softly behind him. There's no harm in making friends. Plus, the eldest miss of the Zhao family is famous for her beauty. She has a good impression of you, too. It's normal for men to have multiple wives and concubines. Suya thought that his son must have endured too much after being a monk for 3 years in the Sunset Mountains. Otherwise, why would he turn into a wolf as soon as he came back? Plus, looking at Su Wan's petite body, she didn't seem like she could handle it. With his son's fighting strength, it wouldn't be a problem for him to marry 4 or 5 wives. Then, he could give birth to a few genius grandsons to play with. Ah, that feels great. Hearing Su Ya's words, Su Rue's expression finally darkened. I have my own plans. I don't want anyone to interfere with my life. Lord, even if you're my father, you're not an exception. Saying this, a purple aura spread around Su Rue. That was Purple Ming's cheerful cry. It hadn't killed in a long time and hadn't drunk blood. It was really unhappy. Suya was speechless. Are you threatening me? Nanny. Yet, I'm being threatened. My son is so domineering, Lord. You're being naughty again. By the time Su Rue returned to his courtyard, Su Liang had already tidied it up. He and Su Pei had gotten Su Wan's promise, so they went back to rest early. Right now, only Su Wan and Little White were left in the room. Little White was still lying on the table eating supper. His plump tummy was unbearable to look at. Meanwhile, Su Wan was tidying up her clothes. Su Rue saw Su Wan's small bag by the table as soon as he entered. Wife, are we going out? Amen. I want to go home. How's the discussion with the Lord going? Done. I'll make a copy of the Yuling chant and have him give it to the royal family. Su Rue turned and closed the door, muttering softly, What? Little White, who was about to turn into a ball, flipped over on the table. Master, the Yuling chant is an ancient chant. Ever since he recognized Su Rue as his master, Little White had been worried about Su Wu. In the end, he could only confess to Su Rue and tell him about the Yuling chant. He thought that Su Rue just wanted to promote it in the Su family. Who knew that he was willing to give it to the royal family? So what if it's an ancient chant? Su Rue smiled. What rank was the Yuling chant in ancient times? This time, Little White was speechless. To be honest, the Yuling chant really wasn't of any rank. It was definitely trash among trash in ancient times. Actually, since the ancient times until now, there has been a decline in talents on the mainland. Summoners' circumstances aren't as good as before. Now that there's a chance for more people to become summoners, and for more people to have the ability to protect their loved ones, isn't that great? Su Rue's expression was solemn. Maybe a beast tide will come one day. The battle between humans and magical beasts will never end. Plus, Little White, since you can wake up from the seal, what about the other divine races? Or even the demons in the abyss? If we humans aren't strong enough, how can we fight against the other races? How can we protect our land? Little White was speechless. Sob, sob, sob. Too touching, too touching. Master, you're so great. This divine beast has good eyesight. I actually chose such a great master. Therefore, there shouldn't be a problem for my name to go down in history, right? Just as Xiaobai was sighing with emotion, Su Rue's words suddenly changed. However, the hearts of the people on the mainland are getting worse. If this Yuling chant spreads out and is used by people with evil intentions, it will be a disaster. So, Xiaobai, do you know of any secret methods that can control this Yuling chant? Or is there something similar to a soul imprint in your inheritance that can be added to the Yuling chant? Little White was speechless. Therefore, you're still too naive. Actually, there really was a method to restrain the Yuling chant in the inheritance of the Silver Moon White Tiger. Of course, Su Rue knew this since he was familiar with the plot. In the original plot, Su Wu's cultivation method had always been coveted by people with ill intentions. There was even a little white flower who approached her as a close friend. After successfully obtaining Su Wu's trust, the little white flower obtained the Yuling chant from her. In order to make herself unique, the little white flower plotted against Su Wu, wanting to kill her. But at this time, Su Wu used another technique that Little White taught her. This was a technique that specifically restrained the Yuling chant. It was also a secret technique of the Silver Moon White Tiger clan. This technique was called the devouring chant. Once it was used, it could devour all of the spiritual power that the opponent cultivated using the Yuling chant, instantly returning the opponent to their original state. That's right. The golden finger prepared for the female lead was just that amazing. And now, it all belonged to Su Rue and Su Wan. They could create a legend of a city, but they could also turn all legends into ashes and smoke. Chapter 250. Suya went to the Castellan's residence on the same day, after the Su family sent out an order to gather all of their branches. No one knew what agreement Suya and Long Qianzhan reached. However, Long Qianzhan took Suya and the other two and left Might City the next day, heading straight for Arinda country's imperial capital. After Suya left Might City, news spread from the Su family that Suya was going to give the secret technique Su Zhan brought back from the Sunset Mountains to the royal family. The entire Might City was in an uproar. In the Dongchuan mainland, strength was everything. Although the imperial family was nothing in front of those top experts, it was still an unreachable existence for most people. The Arinda Empire's imperial family had been passed down for hundreds of years. The imperial elder group of the imperial family was full of experts, and it was directly in charge of the Imperial Summoner Academy. Basically, more than half of the geniuses in the empire had been recruited by the imperial family. The Su family's move was beyond many people's expectations. Those who had been ready to make trouble all quietened down due to the imperial family's strength. The eldest daughter, Zhao Chuiying, had reached the marriageable age. Originally, Zhao family thought highly of Xiao Yan, especially after Xiao family and Su family broke off the marriage. Master Zhao had hinted to Xiao family more than once that he wanted to form a marriage alliance with them. Unfortunately, not long after, Xiao Yan left Might City and headed to the imperial capital. Right now, Su Zhan was like the sun in the sky. Although the outside world was saying that he was going to marry Su family's third miss, It was normal for a genius summoner to have multiple wives and concubines. The greater a man's ability, the greater his responsibility, and the greater his charm. In this era where the strong preyed on the weak, what women valued the most in a man was not his face or figure, but his strength. As long as you had the strength, with a sword in hand, the world was yours. Seeing that Patriarch Zhao was about to celebrate his 80th birthday, and that Suya wasn't in Might City right now, Patriarch Zhao immediately found his daughter and personally wrote an invitation. He wanted her to personally go to Su family and hand it to Su Zhan. Zhao Chueying was 18 years old now. She was the same age as Su Wan, and they were both grade 5 intermediate summoners. Although the two women had never officially met before, Zhao Chueying had always treated Su Wan as her competitor in Might City. She wanted to surpass Su Wan, but that was only in terms of cultivation. As for feelings, Zhao Chueying already had someone in her heart, and that person was the male lead. Xiao Yin had broken off his engagement with the Su family, and Zhao Chueying had even boldly asked him out to confess her love for him. But that day, Xiao Yin had rejected her, saying that he already had someone he liked. Zhao Chueying didn't know who Xiao Yin liked, but she wouldn't give up easily. Now that Xiao Yin was in the imperial capital, he would become more and more powerful. He would definitely surpass Su Zhan. Zhao Chueying had always been confident in the man she liked. Right now, Zhao Chueying felt heavy as she held the invitation in her hands. She didn't like Su Zhan. No matter how good Su Zhan seemed to others, her heart could only contain one person. Sister. At this time, a crisp voice interrupted Zhao Chueying's thoughts. Zhao Chueying raised her head and saw her younger sister standing in the hallway with a smile on her face. Zhao Wenying, who had just turned 16 this year, wore a summoner's robe and walked cheerfully to her sister's side. Is this an invitation for young Master Su? Zhao Wenying looked at the invitation in her sister's hands, excitement flashing through her eyes. Sister, can I give it to him? I really like young Master Su. I haven't seen what he looks like yet. 3 years ago, when Su Zhan left Might City, the 13-year-old Zhao Wenying was just a beginner summoner who had just successfully awakened her spiritual power. But now, she was a grade 6 summoner. It could be said that Zhao Wenying's aptitude was better than her sister and Su Wan's. She was a genius young lady. What made people even more envious was that she had a good figure that didn't lose to her sister even though she was only 16 years old. She also had an innocent Lolita face. She could be said to be a man's nemesis. Sister. Seeing her sister's interest in Su Zhan, Zhao Chueying furrowed her brows. I heard that young Master Su is going to marry Su family's third miss soon. Sister, are you? I've never seen him before. I'm just curious. Plus, Zhao Wenying snatched the invitation from her sister's hands. Isn't Su Wan your rival in love? If it weren't for her, you and brother Xiao might have gotten married back then. Now, if there's a chance, I'll help you take revenge. Snatching her man, I'll let her experience the feeling of being abandoned. Saying this, Zhao Wenying quickly walked past Zhao Chueying with the invitation, carrying a faint fragrance with her. Watching her sister leave, Zhao Chueying's gaze was a bit complicated. Ever since they were young, their father had always treated them as a bargaining chip for the family's benefits because of their good looks. After they grew up, they inherited their mother's devilish figure. Their mother had always instilled a thought into them. Men used their strength to conquer the world, while women only needed to conquer men in bed. Was this the only reason for women's existence? Zhao Chueying didn't believe in fate. She also didn't believe that a truly powerful man would be like her father and have multiple wives and concubines just because he was outstanding. There would always be one person in this world who was powerful and devoted. That kind of person was truly worthy of being entrusted. When Zhao Wenying arrived at the Su family under the gazes of a large group of men, she was told that their master went out. Went out? Tomorrow was Zhao family's birthday banquet. Su Zhan went out at this time? Zhao Wenying looked around and smiled charmingly at the housekeeper at the door. Then can I go in and wait for your master? He has to come back tonight, right? Miss Zhao, you should go back. Our master went back with third miss. He won't be back for at least 3 to 5 days. Although he was bewitched by Zhao Wenying's beauty for a moment, the butler still answered seriously. What? This time, Zhao Wenying was truly shocked. Then he's not going to attend our Zhao family's birthday banquet? Master has already arranged for the elder and the others to go over. Miss Xiao, don't worry. Su Zhan. What is Su Zhan? Zhao Weiniang angrily tossed the invitation to the Su family's housekeeper. When she turned around, her beautiful eyes were cold. Su Zhan, I want to see just who you are. Don't tell me I can't charm you with my abilities. Ignorance is bliss. Miss Xiao, you even dared to provoke General Su. You're really a role model who's not afraid of death, a role model of cannon fodder. Su Rui naturally didn't know anything about Zhao Weiniang right now. He wasn't interested in Zhao family at all. Su Wan's branch was in a small mountain village under the jurisdiction of Might City. It wasn't easy to get to the village. Thankfully, Su Rui had the wind-chasing eagle that could travel thousands of miles a day. This time, the two didn't bring Little White. Su Liang and Su Pei also stayed at home to cultivate. Before they left, Su Rui made them swear and passed the Yuling chant to the two. As for what they could achieve in the end, it would depend on their own efforts. True geniuses were always rare in this world. As long as you worked hard, you could become a genius. Su family village should be after we fly past this mountain. Su Wan leaned into Su Rui's embrace and softly whispered a sentence according to the original owner's memory. Right now, the scenery on the mountain was great. Looking down from midair, she could see the flowers blooming all over the mountain. It was like spring all year round and the flowers were brilliant. Su Wan recalled the beautiful scenery from the original body's memory and couldn't help but soften her gaze. It's still so beautiful here, she muttered to herself softly. In the next moment, the wind-chaser eagle suddenly dove into the forest. Su Rui? Su Wan froze. She turned to look at the man behind her, a bit surprised. It's indeed beautiful here. Su Rui moved his lips to Su Wan's ears. Wife, don't you think this place is suitable for doing something? What? Su Wan subconsciously asked a question. Su Rui breathed heavily behind Su Wan's ears. Fighting in the wild. Su Wan was speechless. General Su, you've lost your integrity. Chapter 251. In the dense forest, the mountain flowers were fragrant and the green grass was lustrous. In this beautiful and pure mountain forest, there was also a clear stream flowing through it. So the stream is still here. At this time, Su Wan and Su Rui had safely landed, and the place where they landed just happened to be next to the gurgling stream. Do you want to take a shower? Su Rui hugged Su Wan from behind and softly whispered in her ears, his words full of provocation. Don't mess around. The people in the village use this water to drink. Su Wan couldn't help but smile and hit Su Rui's arm. The people in this village don't have an easy life either. They rely on the mountains and water to survive. Over the years, there haven't been many summoners here. Most of the people in Su family village stay in the mountains and hunt for a living. Actually, the original Su Wan was chosen to go to the main family. She had the chance to bring her parents to Might City, but the people in the mountain village were simple. Her parents were ordinary people without any spiritual power. They were afraid of dragging their daughter down and afraid that they wouldn't be able to adapt to life in the city. Therefore, the two stayed in Su family village. While Su Wan was organizing the original body's memories, Su Rui pressed her under a dense ancient tree. Wife, we agreed to do something meaningful. You're distracted again. You deserve to be punished. Saying this, Su Rui kissed Su Wan's lips harshly as if he was punishing her. His hands undid the cyan robe that represented an intermediate summoner. Imin, Su Wan gasped. Because she was nervous, she wrapped her arms around Su Rui's neck. Su Rui, there will be people here. In Su Wan's memories, the people in the village had to go into the mountains to hunt every day. Even if the weather wasn't good, they had to go into the mountains in order to survive. What are you afraid of? Su Rui's hands were already on Su Wan's warm skin. They won't let us off. Wife, be good. Relax. Saying this, Su Rui kissed Su Wan's lips again. Under the luxuriant tree, the sunlight shone down. The two's bodies were entangled. At this moment, a sharp whistle came from not far away. It is the whistle of the hunters of the Su family village. Su Wan's blurred eyes gradually woke up. Su Rui, someone's coming. Although she was used to living shamelessly with General Su these days, that was in her own home. She could do whatever she wanted after closing the door and rolling onto the bed. But now, they were in the wilderness. Not only were there countless wild beasts, but hunters could also pass by at any time. This was too exciting. Su-won felt a bit scared. Su-ruay naturally heard the whistle too. But General Su was already halfway through attacking the city. How could he abandon the city? As a person, he had to finish what he started. Wife, hold me tight. While Su-ruay was speaking, the spiritual chi in his body moved, and the two of them immediately jumped up. Right now, Su-won was hanging on Su-ruay's body, and the two of them stood on the branches of the big tree. Fortunately, this tree was old and the branches were very thick and strong, able to withstand the weight of the two people. The leaves are dense here. They won't be able to see us. Although he heard the approaching footsteps, General Su still covered Su-won's lips again without hesitation. He gazed at her and gently and passionately rubbed against her lips. Needless to say, General Su's kissing skills had been practiced to the point of maturity. His skills were extraordinary. Su-won's mind went blank from Su-ruay's kiss. Right now, she was powerless and could only subconsciously cooperate with his kiss. At this time, two people's voices came from not far away from the tree. Uncle Da, where did that wild boar go? It ran in this direction just now. The one who spoke was a dark-skinned and well-built youth. Hearing the youth's words, the person who was addressed as Uncle Da frowned. Then, he squatted down and looked at the grass on the ground. He raised it to his nose and sniffed it. Uncle Da's expression suddenly changed. Uncle Da, what's wrong? Urchwan, where's the wild boar you were talking about? At this time, a few people carrying bows and arrows rushed over. They clearly rushed over after hearing the whistle. Don't make a sound, Uncle Da suddenly shouted coldly. Then he walked around and looked left and right. Just now, I smelled the scent of a high-level magical beast on the grass. What? Hearing Uncle Da's words, the group of people panicked. They couldn't even deal with a low-level magical beast, let alone a high-level magical beast. Uncle Da, did you smell it wrong? Someone couldn't help but question him. The young man named Urchwan furrowed his brows. When did Uncle Da make a mistake? The moment he said this, the people around him also shut up. Everyone, don't be so nervous. Seeing the gloomy expressions on the faces of the people behind him, Uncle Da smiled. This is the scent of a high-level magical beast, the Windchaser Eagle. This type of magical beast is usually the mount of a high-level summoner. That wild boar must have sensed the scent of the Windchaser Eagle and hid. According to my speculations, there should be a summoner following the magical beast. They might have just passed by. Maybe they've already left. What? Hearing Uncle Da's explanation, another round of discussion broke out in the crowd. Windchaser Eagle. An advanced summoner. That was something that only existed in legends. Hearing the envious sighs of admiration from the crowd, Chuan curled his lips. What's there to be envious about? Uncle Da's sister Xiaowan is also a summoner. She's the strongest in our Su family village. When she comes back during Chinese New Year, she'll definitely be riding a Windchaser Eagle. Whoosh! Before Urchwan could finish his sentence, a slight sound came from the old tree nearby. General Su suddenly realized that it was his father-in-law under the tree. He didn't control himself well and broke a branch. Seeing a broken branch fall from the tree, the group of people next to the tree did not dare to move. Who? It was said that a newborn calf was not afraid of a tiger. Chuan took a big stride and arrived under the old tree. However, the old tree was too dense. Looking up from below, it was full of branches and leaves. He couldn't see anything. Don't be nervous. It's probably the wind. An old hunter could not help but walk to the tree and pick up the broken branch to take a look. Howl. At this time, a wild boar's howl rang. Everyone glanced at each other and immediately grabbed their bows and arrows, rushing over. Until the group disappeared and the branches swayed, Su-ruay grabbed Su-won and jumped down from the tree. Right now, Su-won's face was still red. She had heard Su-da's voice earlier, but she didn't dare to move at all, afraid that they would find out. Although Su-won didn't mind having a new and exciting experience with her man, this time, she was representing the original body's return to her hometown. If she was caught red-handed by everyone here, then she really wouldn't have the face to face her elders. Phew. At this moment, the satisfied General Su couldn't help but let out a long sigh. Wife, it seems like your father isn't a simple person. Suda. Su-won's expression turned serious. If Suda was a normal villager, how could he tell what kind of magical beast it was just by smelling it? This method of identifying magical beasts was a special skill that could only be used by mercenary summoners who had been through life and death in the Sunset Mountains all year round. Did Suda have a hidden identity? This time, Su-won was at a loss. Because in the original plot, Su family village was annihilated in the beast tide not long after. The original body, Su-won, was also used as cannon fodder by Su-woo. Their family's secret was also buried in time. Chapter 252. The sun set in the west, and the afterglow of the sky illuminated the entire Su family village in a brilliant red. Everyone in the village was busy. The hunters had a good harvest today. They actually hunted 2 especially large wild boars. 2 adult wild boars were enough for every family in the village to get a lot of meat. The remaining fur and bones could be taken to the nearby town to be exchanged for some money. While the adults were busy chatting and laughing, the children in the village gathered at the entrance of the village in 2s and 3s to be trained by the village's instructor. These 8- and 9-year-old children were the hope of Su family village. Su-won was born in the village and received a large reward from the Su family. The money and cultivation resources were basically used on these children. The Su family village's instructor was surnamed Zhang. He was the only one with a different surname and was also one of the few people in the village who succeeded in spiritual awakening. Although he had been the lowest grade 9 summoner for most of his life, this didn't stop him from wanting to become stronger. Right now, he was seriously teaching the children how to meditate and guide spiritual power into their bodies. This was a very crucial step. Talented and intelligent people could basically enter a meditative state very quickly. Then, the success rate of guiding spiritual power into their bodies was very high. Once they could guide spiritual power into their bodies for the first time, then they would definitely succeed in spiritual awakening and become a summoner. When Su-rue and Su-won slowly walked to the entrance of Su family village, they saw this lively and peaceful scene. Hey, who are you guys? While the group of children were meditating, a mischievous boy secretly opened his eyes. As a result, he saw a man and a woman leisurely walking over under the afterglow of the setting sun. Su-che was only 7 years old this year, so he naturally didn't have any impression of Su-won. He just thought that the 2 elder brothers and sister in front of him were really good looking. Plus, the robes they wore were really familiar, just like the robes of the powerful summoners in the album that Instructor Zhang took. At this moment, following Su-che's clear and loud shout, the surrounding children immediately opened their eyes in curiosity. Instructor Zhang also woke up from his meditative state. He turned around and saw Su-won and Su-rue. The cyan robe with silver patterns on the edges was the signature robe of an intermediate summoner. This was the goal that Coach Zhang had been working hard for. The silver-white robe embroidered with golden patterns represented the advanced summoner. It was Coach Zhang's first time seeing an advanced summoner at such a close distance. Furthermore, the other party was so young and handsome. Which great family's descendant is he? Or, a genius from the Royal Family Summoners Academy? Coach Zhang froze on the spot, not knowing what to do. Among the group of children, there was a little girl who also blinked her big eyes. She first looked at Su-rue, and then she looked at Su-won. At this time, her gaze suddenly brightened. Sister Xiao-won. Sister Xiao-won, are you back? Yes. Su-won smiled at the little girl. Sume, I haven't seen you for 2 years. You've grown quite a bit. Sume was Heir Chuan's younger sister, and Heir Chuan's real name was naturally Su Chuan. He was the second oldest in the family, so everyone was used to calling him Heir Chuan. The 3 siblings had depended on each other since they were young. They lived next door to Su-won, so they were very familiar with her. Third Miss Su? Coach Zhang snapped out of his trance and stared dazedly at Su-won. They hadn't seen each other for 2 years, and Su-won had changed a lot. It was said that a girl changes 18 times between childhood and womanhood. Coach Zhang, long time no see. Su-won smiled at Coach Zhang, and then her gaze landed on the village. It seems really lively today. Sister Xiao-won, My second brother and the others caught 2 huge wild boars today. Can I let my brother stew some meat for you to eat tonight? Don't you like his stew the most? Su Wan froze and suddenly recalled that Su Mei and Su Chuan's brother was called Su Qing. Cough. This Su Qing was the original body's first love? Of course, strictly speaking, they were just childhood sweethearts. Su Da's family had 3 daughters, while Su Qing's family consisted of 3 siblings. Because Su Qing's parents died early, he had been taking care of his siblings since he was very young. Su Da and his wife were kind-hearted, and the 2 families were neighbors, so they often ate together. They would even spend Chinese New Year's together, so the children's relationship was naturally very good. Su Wan's elder sister and second sister were a few years older than her. They had gotten married early. Su Wan often played with Su Qing when she was young. At that time, the 2 were the little geniuses in the village. Everyone thought that they would definitely become summoners and leave the village to go to Might City together. Unfortunately, Su Wan succeeded, but Su Qing failed. Afterwards, he joined the hunter team in the village and became the youngest and most powerful hunter in the Su family village. Ever since Su Wan summoned the spiritual sword, their lives took 2 completely different paths. Even if the 2 of them had an ignorant, favorable impression of each other when they were young, they never talked about it. Since then, the 2 of them were busy with their own things and never crossed paths again. The original body, Su Wan, was a really arrogant girl. When she left the Su family village to go to the Su family, she was full of ambition. She never thought that she would return to this secluded mountain village. She felt like she was a natural phoenix. She shouldn't be trapped in this remote and desolate place. She should spread her wings and soar. As for Su Qing and even the people in the village, they were just old friends that weren't worth mentioning. Thinking of this, Su Wan couldn't help but sigh inside. She subconsciously added, I haven't eaten your brother's cooking in a long time. Ahem. Su Rue, who had been ignored by everyone, couldn't help but cough. He lifted his hands and held onto Su Wan's shoulders. Wife, what's wrong? You're back at your parents' home. Aren't you going to introduce me? Third miss, this is, actually Coach Zhang had seen Su Rue a long time ago. Who couldn't see such a prominent high-level summoner? It was just that their statuses were too different, so he didn't dare to rashly talk to Su Rue. I'm Su Zhang. Hearing that Coach Zhang finally asked about his identity, Su Rue smiled at Coach Zhang. I'm Su Wan's man. Su Rue emphasized the last sentence. Nanny, there was actually a hidden rival in the mountains. General Su was really unhappy. So what if he knew how to cook? General Su expressed that he had gotten full marks in his cultivation a long time ago. As expected, as a good husband in the new era, cooking was a magic weapon to defeat the enemy. Wow. Hearing Su Rue's words, the group of children couldn't help but shout. Coach Zhang was dumbstruck. The third miss is already married outside? She even married a high-level summoner? While Coach Zhang was in a daze, Su Rue waved his hand and summoned an exquisite iron box. That's right. This was also a type of magical weapon. But because General Su's attributes were too low, it could only be used as a gift box. This was the convenience of being a summoner. Whatever they wanted, they could summon it and send it away at will. Here, this is the gift I brought for you guys. Su Rue smiled and opened the box. Inside were all sorts of fragrant candies and magical beast jerky with spiritual qi. This was definitely a luxurious gift for visiting friends and family in Might City. Come, call me brother-in-law and I'll give it to you guys. Su Rue waved his hand and revealed a charming smile at the children. The little angels had never seen such a charming smile before. They were instantly bribed by General Su. Brother-in-law, hello? This uniform shout pierced through the horizon, making Su Rue's smile deepen. At this time, the busy people in the village finally noticed the strange situation at the entrance of the village. Coach Zhang, what happened? The person closest to the entrance of the village thought that something had happened and quickly rushed to the entrance. In the end, he received the children's most orderly and excited reply. Sister Su Wan brought brother-in-law back. Chapter 253. Su Wan and Su Rue's arrival caused the originally peaceful village to become really lively. Coach Zhang might not know who Su Zhan was, but how could the Su family village's people not know that the main family's young master was called Su Zhan? Hearing that Su Wan actually kidnapped Su Zhan back, brought him back, the Su family village's old village chief immediately came out trembling with his walking stick and his grandson's support to welcome them. Su Rue also restrained his arrogance towards the Su family village. He treated everyone very gently and politely. This made the villagers feel flattered. Speaking of which, the main family would go to each branch to pick out young people with potential every 3 years. Every time they came, which one of them wasn't arrogant and arrogant? In the eyes of the villagers, the main family's young masters and young mistresses were even more unreachable. However, the impression Su Rue gave them was the complete opposite. He was elegant and noble, but also very approachable. Plus, Su Rue was handsome to begin with. It was hard for people not to have a good impression of him when he smiled. Today was supposed to be a bumper harvest day. Plus, with Su Wan and Su Rue's arrival, the old village chief decided to hold a bonfire banquet in the village. The wild boar they caught today became the main dish. Su Qing was in charge of breaking down the wild boar and roasting it. After 2 years, the current Su Qing hadn't changed much compared to the young man in the original body's memory. Although he was often exposed to the sun and rain outside, Su Qing's skin was much fairer than his younger brother Su Chuan's. When he wore hunter's attire, he looked really thin and weak, more like a scholar. But when he picked up his bow and rolled up his sleeves, you'd see that his gaze was sharp and his arms were really strong too. There were many young men in the Su family village, but Su Qing was considered one of the best. He had many pursuers in the village, but for the past 2 years, Su Qing had been immersed in practicing his archery skills. He refused everyone's confessions. As time passed, there were fewer and fewer women who came to look for him. Actually, only Su Chuan knew his brother's feelings. Brother couldn't let go of sister Xiao Wan. Brother, let me help you. Su Chuan appeared behind Su Qing out of nowhere. As he said this, he pulled out the fine iron dagger he always carried with him. There was still some time before the banquet started. Most people surrounded Su Wan and Su Rue, asking them about Might City and Su family. Regarding everyone's curiosity, Su Rue didn't find it troublesome and always answered every question. Compared to the bustling scene in front, the back kitchen seemed especially deserted. Why don't you go to the front to watch the show? Su Qing lifted his head and glanced at his brother. He knew that his brother actually yearned to be a summoner in Might City. Actually, who wasn't? A complicated look flashed through Su Qing's eyes, but he soon regained his composure. There's nothing to see. Isn't he just the eldest young master of the main family? He just has a better background than us. Su Chuan thought for a long time before replying clumsily to his big brother. You. Hearing his brother's words, Su Qing shook his head slightly. Don't talk nonsense. That person, he is very strong. When Su Rue and Su Wan entered, the first person Su Qing saw wasn't Su Wan but Su Rue. The hunter's instinct told him that the man was extremely dangerous. Even if he wasn't a summoner, he was still a very strong martial artist. Su Qing could feel the heavy murderous aura on him. Maybe only a man like this would make the proud Su Wan willingly lower her head? Su Qing felt a bit bitter. He had been working hard all these years. Even though he was determined to never become a summoner in this lifetime, he had been secretly working hard. He just wanted to be closer to her. Just a bit closer would be good. Unfortunately, seeing her again this time, Su Qing suddenly realized that the distance between them was too far. So far that he couldn't catch up to her figure even if he worked his entire life. Was this fate? The irreversible fate between a genius and a wastrel? Brother? Su Chuan couldn't help but call out to Su Qing, seeing that he hadn't moved the dagger for a while. Sister Xiao Wan said that she's going to invite everyone to Might City for her wedding. Brother, are you going? Why not? Hearing his brother's words, Su Qing snapped out of his trance and smiled faintly. I haven't been to Might City yet. This might be my only chance in this lifetime. The night in the mountain village was peaceful and beautiful. The entire village sang and danced around the bonfire, eating and drinking. This was the busiest night in Su family village this year. Does it taste good? Su Rue held Su Wan's waist with one hand, his gaze landing on the wild boar meat on her plate. Even though Su Qing didn't say anything to Su Wan, this plate of meat was clearly different from other people's. General Su was unhappy. You want to eat? Su Wan turned her head and used the fork in her hand to pick up a piece of meat and place it by Su Rui's lips. Here, be good. Open your mouth. In. Su Rui took a bite. As expected, it didn't taste that great. If you like it, I'll make something better for you when we get back. Su Rui finished the meat in his mouth and couldn't help but whisper intimately in Su Wan's ears. Okay, I know that you're good at cooking. Chef Su, why are you being jealous today? He's remembering his childhood sweetheart. Seeing her man's jealous gaze, Su Wan couldn't help but smile and say softly. The person in Su Qing's heart was Su Wan, but it wasn't the current Su Wan. Even if it's the original one in his heart, the one he's looking at right now is you. Su Rui tightened his grip, his tone a bit gloomy. He didn't like Su Qing's gaze when he looked at Su Wan. It was clearly so indifferent without a trace of anything special, but he could still read the deep longing in his eyes that he was pretending to be calm. How much a man loved a woman could be seen from the way he looked at her. Su Qing really loved Su Wan. Su Rui was sure of this. Plus, this Su Qing, in short, the feeling he gave Su Rui was completely different from the feelings his love rivals gave him in the past. There was a type of love rival in this world. They were always indifferent like water, but they were always everywhere. These types of people were hard to deal with. Su Rui didn't eat much for the entire night. He only cared about declaring his ownership in front of everyone. One moment, he hugged Su Wan's waist, and the next moment, he hugged her shoulders, afraid that others couldn't tell that they were a couple. Although Su Wan's expression was helpless against General Su's childish and insecure behavior, she still felt that her man was cute no matter what. Fine. No wonder you guys are husband and wife. After the bonfire banquet ended, everyone naturally went their own ways. Because Su Qing's family and Su Wan's family were neighbors, they naturally went the same way. Before the banquet started, Su Rui told the old village chief about the family gathering order. Suya had naturally given them the order too, but Su Rui had intercepted the token. He wanted to tell the news to the people in the village together with Su Wan. Plus, he used the excuse that he was going to marry Su Wan to have everyone in the village go to Might City to watch the ceremony. The bestial tide was coming. Su family village was located in the mountains and naturally couldn't be spared. Right now, Might City's Su family was in need of manpower. Although they had only interacted for a few hours, Su Rui could feel the simplicity and steadiness of the entire village. People of this quality were exactly what the Su family needed. Su Wan's home was on the east side of the village. It was a very old but large stone house. Because there were a lot of people in the past, the stone house was divided into several independent bedrooms. Although his daughters weren't at home now, Su Da and his wife still cleaned the house well. Master, the environment here is simple and crude. We didn't prepare anything either. Please don't mind. Su Da's wife, Dongyu, immediately brewed a pot of tea for Su Rui after returning home. She wore a sincere smile on her aged face. We're family. You don't have to be so polite. You're the elder. Just call me Su Zhan. Su Rui was naturally very polite to his in-laws. Speaking of which, he and Su Wan have been together for so long, and he has also seen several in-laws. Other than Su Jianjun and Li Meiwan, the best pair, Su Rui was quite satisfied with his in-laws. Su Rui smiled really sincerely right now. Dongyu's expression became even more benevolent seeing Su Rui's smile. Then I'll call you Su Zhan. You and Xiao Wan must be tired. I'll help you tidy up a room. You should rest early too. No need to go through so much trouble. Su Wan grabbed her mother's hand. He's sleeping with me. You guys don't have to tidy up a room for him. Dong Yu was speechless. Ahem. Su Da saw his wife standing there in a daze. He couldn't help but cough and pull her to his side. We're old and we can't stay up late. Xiao Wan, since that's the case, take care of Su Zhan. Your mother and I will go back to the room first. Amin got it. Su Wan nodded and watched Su Da and his wife leave. After the two returned to their room, Su Wan couldn't help but look at Su Rui sitting by the stone table. How is it? The soundproofing of the stone house is pretty good. Wife, tonight we... Amin? Su Wan narrowed her eyes and looked at Su Rui dangerously. I'm talking to you about something serious. Oh. Su Rue smiled craftily at his wife. I can tell that your mother has no spiritual power at all. Although your father is an ordinary person, he should have cultivated before. In other words, my father might have been a summoner back then, but I don't know what happened that caused his cultivation to be crippled. Suwon couldn't help but guess hearing Su Rue's words. Suwon had always been confident in Su Rue's perception. As long as Su Rue glanced over, he would never make a mistake. That's right. Chapter 254. The night in the mountain village was quiet and serene. Su Qing didn't wear an outer garment. He only wore a thin inner garment and quietly left the room. Right now, Su Chuan and Su Mei were sleeping soundly, but Su Qing wasn't sleepy at all. How could he sleep? He lifted his head, and he could see another stone house outside the wall. That was Uncle Da's house. Su Qing didn't even need to look. He could find where Su Wan lived even with his eyes closed. She lived in the innermost part of their house. Uncle Da and Aunt Da doted on her the most since she was young. She was also the smartest among her peers. Su Qing sighed and tried to organize his thoughts. Then, he sat cross-legged in the courtyard and tried to meditate according to the method that Coach Zhang had taught him. All these years, he had been practicing his archery so hard that everyone thought he had given up on the idea of becoming a summoner. In fact, Su Qing had never given up. Every night, he would secretly practice alone. Even if there was only a tiny bit of improvement over the past 2 years, he had never been discouraged. Under the moonlight, the thin-clothed young man sat cross-legged in the courtyard. The moonlight shone on him, making him look really tranquil and peaceful. His mental strength is really strong and his personality is really tenacious too. Unfortunately, Su Rue appeared in the courtyard and quietly looked at Su Qing in the other courtyard. His aptitude is too bad. Huh? Su Wan wore a robe and stood next to Su Rue, her tone a bit complicated. Although his aptitude is bad, his willpower and mental strength are really strong. He's the best candidate to practice the Yuling chant. Will you choose him? Why not? Su Rue caressed Su Wan's long hair. When have I ever used my power for personal gain? Good seedlings are worth nurturing. Plus, Su Rue's words stopped here, but the smile at the corner of his mouth slowly spread. You want to steal my wife? Humph, dream on. The next morning, Su Rue and Su Wan woke up early. It was rare that they didn't fight through the night. The moment they walked out, they saw Su Qing exercising in the courtyard next door. Morning. Su Qing saw the two and couldn't help but stop. He smiled and greeted them. Under the morning sun, the young man's smile was really bright. Maybe this was the legendary Sunshine Boy next door? Morning. Su Wan smiled at Su Qing too. Su Rue curled his lips and scanned Su Qing from top to bottom. Why are you exercising with so little clothes so early in the morning? Who doesn't have abs? Of course, in order to maintain his Su family's noble and elegant young master, Su Rue couldn't immediately take off his clothes and compete with the other party. Sensing Su Rue's displeasure, Su Qing awkwardly touched his head and then carefully looked at the two. I made meat porridge this morning and it's still warm. Do you guys want some? No need. This time, Su Rue answered much faster than Su Wan. My wife eats the food I personally made in the morning. Right, wife? Last night, Su's family also received some wild boar meat, and at this moment, General Su decided to personally cook.
Yes.
Su Wan leaned in Su Rue's arms and smiled happily. Then she looked at Su Qing apologetically. Thank you for your kindness. I'll try your cooking when I have the chance. All right. Su Qing nodded and then went to the other side of the courtyard to continue training. Where's the kitchen? At this time, Su Rue had already rolled up his sleeves, planning to display his skills. You're really coming? Su Wan smiled strangely at him. You're a young master right now. You don't have to do any chores. Let me do it. Saying this, Su Wan had already turned to enter the house and went to the kitchen. Su Wan's culinary skills were top-notch. General Su was naturally happy to be able to eat his wife's breakfast made with love. Wife, be careful. The water is cold. I'll help you wash it. When Dongyu walked into the kitchen in a daze early in the morning, she saw Su Wan and Su Rue busy in the kitchen. Su Wan was cooking porridge, and Su Rue was enthusiastically helping her at the side. The two people were talking and laughing. That scene looked especially warm. Dongyu stood outside the kitchen for a while. In her memory, her youngest daughter was really arrogant. She had never entered the kitchen since she was young. She really changed a lot in these 2 years. Was it because of the young master? Su Zhan's name was well known in the Su family village. Who in the Su family didn't know that he was the genius of the Su family and also the candidate for the next head of the family? Dongyu's gaze landed on Su Rue. She could tell that he truly loved her daughter. Dongyu smiled. Then she thought of something, and her expression turned a bit complicated. Unfortunately, Su Qing was a good child too. He just wasn't fated to be with Xiao Wan. Stop looking. Go clean the table. It's time to eat. Su De was standing behind Dongyu. When she heard her husband's words, Dongyu immediately nodded and quickly turned around to return to the house. Su De glanced at the kitchen and silently turned around to leave. They had a sumptuous breakfast. After the meal, General Su rushed to clean the table. In short, this prospective son-in-law made Su De and his wife smile from ear to ear. Dongyu's eyes turned red. Back then, when she gave birth to Su Wan, the husband and wife were being chased. It could be said that their daughter was born on the line between life and death. Therefore, Dongyu doted on her daughter since she was young. Now that her daughter finally grew up and became sensible, she even found such a good husband. Dongyu felt like she finally had no regrets in her life. In the morning, after breakfast, it was time for the hunters in the village to gather. Because Su Wan had returned, Su De didn't go up the mountain today. On the other hand, Su Chuan sang a folk song early in the morning and pulled his elder brother into the mountain excitedly. This was their last day in the Su family village. Thinking that they could enter Might City in the future and might even become summoners, the youngsters in the village were all excited. Actually, they weren't the only ones who were excited. Some thoughts had been dormant in their hearts for too long. Once there was a glimmer of hope, they would immediately resurface. Coach Zhang arrived outside Su De's house early in the morning. He hesitated, not knowing if he should enter or not. Zhangji, why aren't you coming in? Su De saw Coach Zhang, who was pacing back and forth in front of his courtyard, and immediately called him into the courtyard. Brother Da. Zhangji nodded at Su De. Third Miss and Master, are you up yet? Why are you calling me Third Miss? Our Xiao Wan and Su Zhan woke up early in the morning. They're talking to her mother in the room. Zhangji, are you here to look for Su Zhan? Su De could tell what Zhangji was thinking. They were old acquaintances, so he might as well get straight to the point. Yes. Zhangji showed a rare nervous expression. Brother Da, I'm not a member of the Su family, but I really want to become a real summoner. I don't know if young master will give me this opportunity. You have to fight for the opportunity yourself. As long as you have the heart and fight for it, you'll get a good result. Su De smiled and patted Zhangji's shoulder. Su Zhan is a good kid. Talk to him. I think he'll agree. Okay. Su Rue appeared in front of the door with a smile. Uncle Da, Coach Zhang, I heard what you guys said. Coach Zhang, you've been in our Su family village for a few years. If Uncle Da trusts you, then I, Su Zhan, naturally trust you too. However, once you enter our Su family, you'll have to change your surname to Su and swear to be loyal to the Su family for the rest of your life. Can you do this? Su Zhan smiled and said, Uncle Da, Coach Zhang, I heard what you guys said. Coach Zhang, you've been in our Su family village for a few years. Yes, I can. Zhangji immediately nodded. He hadn't gotten married in order to cultivate. Plus, his family had either died or dispersed. Right now, Zhangji was all alone. He really didn't mind changing his surname to Su. Okay. Su Rue nodded, seeing that he agreed readily. Then go back and prepare. Come into the city with us tomorrow. Yes, yes. Thank you, master. Thank you, brother Da. Zhangji left in satisfaction, but Su Rue was still standing at the door. His gaze landed on Su De. Uncle Da, do you want to become a summoner? Summoner. Su De froze for a moment before shaking his head with a smile. I'm old. I don't have that many expectations or ambitions. It's pretty good to be an ordinary person. No fighting, no killing, no betrayal, and no schemes. He just wanted to be an ordinary person with daily necessities, grow old, get sick, and die. This was the life he was pursuing right now. It's good to be an ordinary person. Su Rue smiled at Suda and then turned to enter the house. Chapter 255. There weren't a lot of people in Su family village. There were around 30 families and over 100 people in total. When Su Rue and Su Wan left with everyone, it was still morning. A large group of people left the village they'd lived in for many years in the morning dew. The elderly were a bit reluctant, but the children and youngsters all wore excited smiles. What was the outside world like? How many unknown sceneries were there outside the mountain? They had been looking forward to walking out of this mountain. Now, everything had become a reality. It was noon by the time the 100 people arrived at the nearest town. Su Rue booked a tavern, and everyone ate lunch. They rented some cars in town before slowly walking towards the county town. They had been rushing all the way here. When they arrived at the county town, they could finally change to low-level magic beasts that pulled the carriages. The group of children were extremely excited as they sat on the magic beasts. At this time, Su Rue summoned an antler beast. This was a rank 4 magic beast. It had a gentle temperament and was a great mount. Plus, it wasn't too fast nor too slow. It was just enough for the low-level magic beasts to keep up with it. When they came, the two rode the Windchaser Eagle and didn't have time to enjoy the scenery along the way. This time, the journey back was leisurely. Su Wan leaned against Su Rue's chest and quietly enjoyed the strange and beautiful scenery on both sides of the road. The scenery of the other world was even more mysterious and beautiful than the scenery they had seen in the past. It would take 3 days and 3 nights to get from Su family village to Might City at a normal speed. Su Rue and Su Wan brought the group of people along and finally entered Might City's city gates on the evening of the 5th day. As the second largest family in Might City, Su family owned many properties inside and outside of Might City. It wasn't a problem for them to settle down 100 people. At this time, there were already many people from the branches who came to report to Su family one after another. Of course, they were all arranged to stay in Su family's courtyard outside the city. Only Su Wan's branch had the qualifications to stay in the main family's outer residence. Might City's grandeur, Su family's luxury, and the summoners that came and went in the city broadened the horizons of the young people in Su family village for the first time. This was Might City. It was just one of the less famous cities in Orinda country. How big was Orinda country? How big was Dongchuan mainland? The mysterious and dangerous Sunset Mountains. The legendary elves and dwarves that lived in the forest. Su Qing stood in front of Su family's tall courtyard, stepping on this unfamiliar land. This was the first time he felt as insignificant as a speck of dust. Only by becoming stronger, continuously becoming stronger, could he truly do something on this continent. By the time Su Wan and Su Rue finished settling down the village, it was already night. The two of them wearily returned to their own house. As soon as they entered the door, a white shadow pounced on them. "Little White," Su Wan called out in surprise, but Su Rue raised his hand and pushed the colossus that pounced on her to the side. He couldn't tolerate any male creature that threw themselves into his wife's arms. Su Rue Su of Qing Little White blinked at Su Rue. "Master, you don't love me at all." Bye. Su Rue ignored Little White's pretense of being wronged and used his spiritual power to communicate with its sea of consciousness. He noticed that Little White had undone another layer of seal, and the spiritual qi in its body had become more abundant. Therefore, its size had increased by a lot. Who do you think I am?" Hearing Su Rue's question, Little White forgot to act aggrieved. He immediately lifted his head and walked with his 2 front legs. "Give me some more time. Once this divine beast unlocks the 3rd layer of the seal, I'll be able to obtain a higher level of inheritance. Magical beasts level up much faster than humans. Plus, you're a divine beast." Su Rue merely glanced at Little White's narcissism. "How are Su Liang and Su Pei?" Those 2 fellows. With the resources you left them, Master, both of them are now grade 8 summoners." Grade 8? Su Rue and Su Wan exchanged glances. This was pretty much what they expected. Because of the countless resources, the 2 leveled up from grade 9 to grade 8 very quickly. But from grade 8 to higher, they needed the support of their own mental power. With Su Liang and Su Pei's mental power, it would probably take a while for them to level up again. Seeing that the two of them were about to go back to their rooms to sleep, Little White, who felt that he was being ignored, immediately raised his claws and said behind the two of them, "By the way, Master, while you weren't here, a big-breasted girl came to look for you every day." HM? Suwon immediately stopped and Su Rue's expression also changed when he heard this. Who? The housekeeper calls her second Miss Zhao. That girl runs to your courtyard every day. I can't even stop her. Plus, she's so stupid. She actually treats me as a watchdog. Also, she's always talking to herself that she's going to take you down. Aya, such a stupid woman is really annoying this divine beast to death. Master, you humans have a saying, big breasts, no brains. Is that referring to her? Su Rue was speechless. Heh, she's not big breasts without brains. Suwon sneered hearing Little White's words. In every world, besides female cannon fodder, there would also be vicious female supporting characters. Zhao Weiniing was a typical vicious female supporting character. She was a genius in Might City. Her talent was above Zhao Chueying and the original body, Suwon. Plus, with her devilish figure, she was good at using her appearance to make friends. In the original plot, Zhao Weiniing entered the Summoner's Academy a year later than the female lead Su Wu. As soon as she entered, she was treated as a goddess. At that time, Su Wu had already established herself in the academy. Plus, she was favored by the fifth prince of the Olin royal family, Jin Yang. Of course, the fifth prince was one of the many passionate male supporting characters in this world. He liked Su Wu, but she didn't have any special feelings for him. After Zhao Weiniing entered the school, this second young mistress of Zhao family was bent on seducing the fifth prince. Unfortunately, she failed every time. In the end, she even overreached herself and was almost killed by the summoner beside Jin Yang. At the last moment of life and death, Xiaoyan happened to pass by and saved her. From then on, Zhao Weiniing was infatuated with Xiaoyan. She wanted to be with Xiaoyan. Because of her disruptions time and time again, the male lead's long road of chasing after his wife became more bumpy. Suwon was originally willing to give a 5-star review to a vicious female supporting character like her. But now, she dared to pester her man. Bad review. Must give a bad review. Seeing that Suwon's smile was gone, Su Rue immediately hugged his wife's shoulders. Wife, you've been tired all day. Let's go to sleep. I'll deal with insignificant people like her tomorrow. I won't let her be an eyesore to you. Who said she's an eyesore to me? Suwon lifted her brows and said proudly, Miss Zhao is looking for you. Not me? Su Rue was speechless. Chapter 256. The news of Su Zhan coming back had spread throughout Might City early in the morning. Zhao Weiniing dressed herself up gorgeously and arrived outside Su family's door with a fragrant breeze. In the past few days, the guards and stewards of the Su family had already become accustomed to her behavior. Didn't you take a fancy to our master? We're not blind. We know what you're trying to do. Where's brother Su Zhan? Zhao Weiniing put on a familiar tone as soon as she entered. The housekeeper's eyes twitched. Miss Zhao, our master and third miss haven't gotten up yet. Zhao Weiniing's expression darkened immediately. Who was Suwon? How could a wild girl from the mountains compare to her? Then I'll go wait for him in his courtyard. Saying this, Zhao Weiniing didn't wait for the housekeeper to stop her. She walked towards Su Zhan's courtyard with her head held high and chest puffed out. Before she entered the courtyard, Xiao Bai, who was in the courtyard, smelled a pungent fragrance. Nanny, there was definitely something wrong with humans' sense of beauty. Their noses were even worse. How could she be so proud of herself despite the pungent smell and think that she smelled good? Had she ever considered other people's noses? As expected, the first thing Zhao Weiniing saw was Little White squatting by the courtyard doing nothing. Oh, Little White, you're up so early to guard the door? Zhao Weiniing had come here many times. Naturally, she heard from the housekeepers that this useless wolf dog was Su Zhan's pet. Therefore, when she saw Little White, Zhao Weiniing revealed a smile that she thought could charm everyone. Little White was speechless. This divine beast is cultivating right now. Do you know how to cultivate? Ignorant human, Little White walked the furthest away from Zhao Weiniing. Wait until my master wakes up. Let's see how he'll take care of you. Humph. I'll stay away in case your blood splashes on me. Zhao Weiniing was already used to Little White's behavior. She stood in the courtyard and heard movement in the room. She immediately tidied up her clothes and hair and walked to the door with light steps. Before she could knock, the door was opened from the inside. Zhao Weiniing immediately revealed her most charming smile. Sua. A basin of hot water suddenly poured down, catching Zhao Weiniing off guard. Hearing Zhao Weiniing scream, Su Wan stood at the door and rubbed her eyes in a daze. Sorry, my hand slipped. It's early in the morning and I thought there was a female ghost standing at the door. Su Wan. Right now, Zhao Weiniing was completely drenched. Her meticulously tied hair was also wet. She knew that Su Wan did this on purpose to embarrass her in front of Su Zhan. As she spoke, the spiritual energy in Zhao Weiniing's body surged. She had already summoned her proudest profound weapon, the Nine Serpent Bow. This was also a divine weapon. Seeing that Zhao Weiniing wanted to use force without saying anything further, Su Wan sneered. She activated her spiritual power and immediately summoned her profound sword. Love rivals? Su Wan thought that if one came, she'd beat one. If two came, she'd beat a pair. There was no pressure at all. If she killed one, there would be one less. The two's profound weapons were equally powerful, but Su Wan suppressed Zhao Weiniing by an entire realm. Plus, Su Wan's spiritual power was several times stronger than Zhao Weiniing's. Therefore, Su Wan had been suppressing Zhao Weiniing since the start of the fight. Plus, Su Wan didn't really want to kill her. Her sharp, profound sword would cut Zhao Weiniing's body from time to time, cutting her wet clothes beyond recognition. Right now, the two women's spiritual power fluctuations had attracted many Su family's disciples. Even Su Qing and his brother who had just arrived last night were attracted here by the noise. Seeing that Su Wan was fighting someone, Su Qing's gaze turned nervous. Brother, look at that woman. Su Chuan tugged on his brother's sleeves a bit excitedly. Hearing his brother's words, Su Qing nodded with a complicated gaze. I see her. She's using a bow and arrow. Although Su Qing wasn't a summoner, he was an outstanding hunter. He knew archery very well. Su Chuan immediately revealed a disdainful expression, hearing his brother's words. Why are you looking at the bow and arrow? I want you to look at her breasts. Her breasts are surging. Can't you see that everyone is drooling? You're so unromantic. No one wants you, third miss. Go for it. Oh, wow. Third miss, you're amazing. The Su family's disciples naturally knew what second Miss Zhao was thinking. Therefore, seeing Su Wan pressing down on her, the group of men immediately cheered enthusiastically. That's it. Third Miss is mighty. Hurry up and stab her in the chest. Let the brothers have a feast for their eyes right now. Zhao Weiniing's expression turned ugly. Naturally, she knew that she wasn't Su Wan's opponent. The reason why she attacked was because she wanted to find a chance. If Su Wan really injured her, then she would have an excuse to get close to Su Zhan. But now, Su Wan kept pressing down on her, but she didn't really want to kill her. Instead, she kept slashing her clothes. She was clearly humiliating her. Zhao Weiniing's expression was ashamed and resentful. She secretly gathered her strength and suddenly summoned a profound weapon while Su Wan was absent-minded. Netherworld Stab, a hidden weapon to injure people. A ray of green light suddenly shot towards Su Wan's chest. Before the onlookers could react, Su Qing had already dashed over. Xiao Wan, be careful. In the nick of time, a silver shield suddenly appeared in front of Su Wan, blocking the Netherworld Stab's sudden attack. Shield of Earth. Hiss. Everyone finally reacted. They couldn't help but suck in a cold breath because of the close call just now. This Miss Zhao was truly vicious. And this shield was, a silvery white figure appeared beside Su Wan. He gently waved his hand, and the shield disappeared in the air. Master! Master! Su family's disciples were all excited. Su Rue just stood there quietly, not even looking at Zhao Weiniing. His gaze landed on Su Qing first. Su Qing's expression was a bit awkward. He felt that Su Wan was in danger, so he couldn't help but rush out. But halfway through, Su Zhan's shield fell from the sky. This made Su Qing stop his footsteps. He stood by the side, feeling conflicted. This was the difference between a summoner and a normal person. When you wanted to protect someone or something, if you didn't have the corresponding strength, then everything would be futile. Even if you sacrificed your life, it might be useless. Seeing Su Qing silently turning to leave, Su Rue lazily looked up and glanced at Zhao Weiniang. Su Rue didn't plan on doing anything today. It was best to leave this woman to his wife to pass the time. Plus, Su Rue believed that even if Zhao Weiniang played dirty, she couldn't beat Su Wan. It was just that Su Qing suddenly rushed out, so Su Rue had no choice but to make a move. He couldn't give his love rival any chance to save the beauty. This was General Su's bottom line. Brother Su Zhan. Seeing Su Rue's figure, Zhao Weiniang's eyes immediately became watery. Master Su was just like the rumors. He was incomparably handsome and had an awe-inspiring noble aura. Zhan, when did you get another sister? How come I didn't know? Hearing Zhao Weiniang's weak and delicate voice, Su Wan put away her weapon and narrowed her eyes at Su Rue. Actually, she had been prepared for Zhao Weiniang's sneak attack. But Su Qing's sudden appearance really surprised Su Wan. Okay, now that Su Rue had come out and the big boss had appeared, it seemed like there was nothing else to play with. Hearing Su Wan's words, Su Rue smiled warmly. Then he turned around and caressed her hair dotingly. Then he gently adjusted her robe. Wife, don't talk nonsense. There are a lot of lunatics in Might City who want to randomly recognize relatives. You're just that naive. You believe everything other people say? Saying this, Su Rue coldly glanced at Zhao Weiniang. I remember that this lady's surname is Zhao. You don't have anything to do with our Su family, right? Don't say that you're your mother and Su Ya's illegitimate daughter. Even if my father is a womanizer, he would choose a better one. Not everyone can enter his eyes. Far away in the imperial capital, Suya, Achu. Who's thinking about me? Aya, there's no other way. This Lord Patriarch is just so well-liked. Chapter 257. Su Zhan, Master Su. Hearing Su Rue's harsh sarcasm, Zhao Weiniang suppressed the anger in her heart. She still had a sweet smile on her face, and her indistinct gaze fell on Su Rue with slight grievance. I just came to Su Fu to visit eldest young master, but third miss directly splashed water all over me. Now, she even humiliated me in front of so many people. Is this how your Su family treats guests? That happened? Su Rue lifted his brows hearing Zhao Weiniang's words. My wife is used to pouring water at the door every morning. You're unlucky to be standing there. Plus, you clearly attacked first, right? You even used a hidden weapon to hurt people. Does everyone from Zhao family act like this when they visit other people's homes? Su Rue retaliated without batting an eyelid. Then he waved his hand again, and a short blade appeared in his hand. This was the king's blade, another divine weapon. Feeling the murderous aura from the weapon, Zhao Weiniang immediately took a step back in fear. Su Zhan, what are you doing? Nothing. Su Rue smiled. Since Miss Zhao is questioning our Su family's way of treating guests, then I'll let you see how I, Su Zhan, truly treat guests. Saying this, Su Rue had already taken out the king's blade and headed straight for Zhao Weiniang. That's how short weapons are played. Streaks of silver light flashed and Zhao Weiniang screamed. When the king's blade returned to Su Rue's hand, there were pieces of clothing scattered all over the courtyard. Right now, Zhao Weiniang was no longer dressed in rags. Instead, she was naked. Su Rue turned around and leaned his face against Su Wan's side, raising his hand to cover her eyes. Wife, don't look. It's not suitable for children. Su Wan was speechless. The audience was speechless. Master, you're really a blessing to humanity, oh my. I can't take it anymore. I'm having a nosebleed. Zhao Weiniang had never suffered such humiliation in her entire life. Now that she was stripped naked in front of a large group of Su family disciples, she immediately cried out in shock. She covered her chest with both hands and ran away. As she ran, she didn't forget to use her spiritual power to summon her combat soft armor. Watching the white silhouette getting further and further away, everyone in Su family just wanted to say, "You are welcome to visit us every day. We are very hospitable." The news of second young mistress Zhao running naked in the Su residence quickly spread throughout Might City. What followed was all sorts of gossip. For example, Zhao Weiniang was Su Ya's illegitimate daughter? For example, Zhao Weiniang stripped naked to seduce Su Zhan. In short, there was no lack of brains that were good at imagination and imagination in every world. This incident immediately caused the Zhao family to lose all face. The Zhao family patriarch flew into a rage and directly locked his second daughter in a small black room. Without the harassment of a certain female supporting, Su Wan and Su Rue could finally be at ease and busy with their own business in Su family. As the people from each branch arrived one after another, Su Rue directly gathered all the people who wanted to become summoners at Su family's training ground outside the city. In this field, he set up layers upon layers of tests. Only people with great perseverance could pass the tests. After 3 days and 3 nights of selection, only 384 people passed the test. What was worth mentioning was that there were over 20 people who passed the test in Su family village. Su Qing, his brother, and Zhang Ji were among them. Zhang Ji had changed his name to Su Ji now. After the initial selection, Su Rue and Su Wan tested everyone's mental power. Other than over 100 people who had weak mental powers, the remaining people all had higher mental powers than ordinary people. Actually, the mainstream summoners on the mainland relied on absorbing the spiritual influence of heaven and earth after successfully activating the spiritual power to cultivate and advance. They didn't need a heaven-defying mental power, but they needed meridians that could hold enough spiritual influence. People like them could absorb spiritual influence quickly, so naturally, they would advance quickly too. People like Su Qing and the others who were born with thin meridians would become useless people with poor aptitudes on this mainland. It wasn't that their aptitudes were poor. It was just that the cultivation methods on the mainland were simple, and there weren't any secret methods suitable for them to cultivate. Now that Su Rue passed the Yuling chant to them, he believed that Su family would possess the strongest summoner army soon. Half a month later. I'm finally out. Su Wu had been locked in the meditation room by Su Rue for an entire month. Without any cultivation resources, she still forcefully increased her rank to the peak of a rank 8 summoner. She was about to advance to rank 7. Pretending to be weak to eat a tiger and keeping a low profile was the main character's way. After Su Wu came out of the meditation room, she returned to her courtyard to take a comfortable bath and rest for a bit. Then she thought about going to Su Zhan's place to see Little White. In the end, when she arrived at Su Zhan's residence and saw the enormous creature in the courtyard, Su Wu froze. "Where's my cute and adorable Little White? Little White, Xiao Wu, be good. This divine beast is here. Come." While they hadn't seen each other for a month, suddenly seeing Su Wu's figure, Little White immediately pounced on her and pushed her to the ground. "My Xiao Wu smells the best. She's natural and has no additives. Hey, stop messing around. Get lost." Su Wu struggled to get up from the ground and looked at Little White with a complicated gaze. "You're Little White? You undid the seal?" Little White looked at Su Wu reluctantly. Xiao Wu, be good. I've already recognized your brother as my master. You won't be mad at me, right? I really want to wait for you. But it's fine." Su Wu interrupted Little White softly. "A fine bird chooses a good tree to nest in. Brother is indeed a rare genius." Before transmigrating to this world, Su Wu was an assassin with no family, no lover, and no friends. She didn't feel sad when she died. Those who kill will be killed. When an assassin entered the world, they knew what their fate was. Now that she transmigrated here and had a brand new life, Su Wu had family and friends. She wasn't willing to be ordinary. Everyone had dreams and ambitions. But this wasn't ambition. If a person's ambition was too big, their soul and bottom line would be slowly infiltrated by it and gradually turn black. Su Wu was the person chosen by fate. As the main character of a world, she naturally had a righteous outlook and was a model of passing on positive energy. She was really grateful that Little White gave her a cultivation method. In this world where the strong preyed on the weak, she wouldn't bully the weak. At the same time, she wouldn't allow herself to be bullied by others. This was the true reason why she wanted to become stronger. No matter what, people had to rely on themselves. Su Wu had expected that Little White might not be able to follow her forever. Right. In this world, who could follow her until the end of time? Thinking of this, Su Wu's expression was a bit complicated. "Little White, where's my brother?" "Master, he Xiaobai hesitated for a moment before stuttering. Master and Su Wan went to the base outside the city. This month, something happened to the Su family. Actually, it's a Little White Weekly told Su Wu everything about the Yuling chant. Su Wu froze for a moment after hearing Little White's words. Then, she smiled faintly. I see. Brother, you're doing this to benefit the continent. Su Wu never thought that Su Zhan would make such a noble decision. After all, to her, the Yuling chant was really precious and couldn't be coveted by others. Yet, Su Zhan was willing to promote it to the entire continent. His breadth of mind was something she couldn't compare to. Little White was speechless. You just didn't see the sinister intentions behind Nissan's righteousness. Poor child. Since that's the case, I'll go to the base outside the city too. I want to be a part of the army too. Su Wu thought about it. Since the Yuling chant was no longer a secret, she could cultivate it openly. This was actually a good thing, right? Su Rue and Su Wan weren't surprised that Su Wu made this choice. After all, she was the female lead of this world. Su Wu was actually very broad-minded. In her past life, she was a cold-blooded killer. In this life, she just wanted to live her life to her heart's content. Su Wan didn't dislike people like this. Therefore, she didn't think of doing anything to Su Wu when she came up with the strategy in the beginning. Seeing that Su Wu came to the training base on her own, Su Wan had a new idea. She decided to put Su Wu and Su Qing in the same group. Su Rue was speechless. Wife, since when did you go from a mission enforcer in charge of breaking up couples to a matchmaker in charge of regrouping couples? Chapter 258. Su family's new summoners had always been training in their family's training ground. Su Qing and his younger brother, Su Chuan, were originally in the same group. After Su Wu came over, she was assigned to their group as well. In the past, Su Wu was a good-for-nothing that everyone looked down on in the Su family. But now, she had the highest cultivation and the highest status in this camp. She was the eldest master's sister and the head of the family's daughter. Who dared to be impudent in front of her? Everyone in the training camp was in awe of Su Wu. On the other hand, Su Qing and his brother got along well with her. Su Chuan was a very simple person. He was used to living in the mountains. Seeing that Su Wu was a girl, he took the initiative to help her, even though Su Wu didn't need his help. But she still liked to get along with people who weren't scheming. As for Su Qing, he looked very gentle and he was a warm guy. Naturally, he got along well with Su Wu. Seeing his relationship with Su Wu getting better and better, the two went from normal teammates to close friends who admired each other. General Su felt that he should be done with this job. Once Su Wu and Su Qing were paired up, the male lead, Xiao Yin, wouldn't have anything to do with it. At this time, the beast horde that was supposed to start a month later erupted in advance. Might City was in a state of panic when the beast horde attacked. Suya had already returned from the imperial capital. His trip to the imperial capital this time was very successful. Not only did Suya receive a large amount of rewards from Her Majesty, but he was also given a noble title. From now on, Su family was a noble family of Arinda country. But it was useless. Now that the beast horde was attacking, all noble titles were useless in front of magical beasts. This was the first time Long Qinzhan had gathered all the family heads in Might City together. At this moment of life and death, everyone let go of their previous enmity and worked together to defend against the enemy. The beast horde this time was ferocious. Might City was surrounded by enemies on all sides. The 4 major families in the city were assigned to guard the 4 city walls. Su family was in charge of the eastern city wall. Summoners and warriors from the Might City's mayor's residence were also guarding the city with the Su family. There were also beginner summoners from smaller families. At this time, no combat power could be wasted. All the new summoners of the Su family also participated in this battle. On the tall city wall, Suya wore an advanced summoner's robe and stood against the wind. Su family's elders stood behind him while Su Rue and Su Wan stood in the 3rd row. Behind them were Su family's youngest disciples. Outside the city was a magical beast army that stretched as far as the eye could see. Actually, Might City was very far from the setting sun mountain range. When the city was built back then, The first city lord probably never thought that such an inconspicuous city would be attacked by a large group of magical beasts one day. These magical beasts had been transported directly from the Sunset Mountains through a special teleportation array, and to be able to activate such an advanced teleportation array, only magical beasts of the 9th rank and above could be activated. A 9th rank magical beast could already transform into a human form. In the setting Sun Mountain range, it could be considered a king. What did such an existence see in Might City? The original plot didn't mention the reason for this beast tide, but Su Wan and Su Rue looked at each other. The two of them already had a plan in their hearts. Why was the beast tide brought forward? What attracted the 9th rank magical beast to go through so much trouble to attack Might City? It was Little White. It was Little White's divine beast aura. Because Little White recognized Su Rue as his master, he advanced and unlocked his seal earlier. Therefore, the beast tide was brought forward as well. Everyone, listen to my orders. Suya, who had been standing at the front silently, finally said, I'll use the Red Lotus to attack in a bit, and then all the elders will activate the sword array together. Finally, all the beginner summoners in the family will form small teams and clean up the battlefield in an orderly manner. Yes, Lord. Everyone behind him answered in unison. Su Ya's gaze froze and his silver robe flickered with golden light. In the next moment, he had already jumped down from the city wall. The strong wind caused his robe to flutter. In midair, Suya began to gather his spiritual power. As a fiery red spiritual power gathered, a blood-red longsword appeared in the air. Demonic sword, Red Lotus. Lord must have deceived a lot of young ladies with this flashy appearance when he was young, right? Su Wan had a deep understanding of the Lord's narcissistic nature. She couldn't help but whisper in Su Rue's ears. Su Rue thought for a moment. Perhaps Lord Su's wife was tricked like this? Su Zhan and Su Wu didn't have a mother since they were young. The Su family had never seen the Lord's wife's face before. But as the female lead's birth mother, how could the Lord's wife be a nobody? That's right. Su Wu's background was really complicated and mysterious. Plus, Su Ya's wife's identity was really prominent too. Of course, this had nothing to do with Su Wan. As soon as the demonic sword appeared, the magical beasts below began to move. Suya stood in midair and faced the magical beasts closest to him. He confidently swung the long sword in his hand. Red Lotus, beheading. As the red light flashed, the magical beasts' corpses fell to the ground. Beheading 1,000 people? Deja vu of a hot-blooded male lead. Lord is mighty. Lord is invincible. Everyone in the Su family roared excitedly. It was as if they were injected with chicken blood. Su Rue couldn't help but twitch his eyes. Please. The ones at the front were the lowest level of magical beasts, okay? If Suya couldn't even take care of them, how could he be the Lord? Of course, the Lord had to work hard too. He had to kill magical beasts, act cool, and also raise morale. In short, do you think it's easy being the Lord? It's very stressful, okay? Charge. The elders' group sword formation was ready. With a loud shout, a dozen people charged out with Suya. Su family's main weapon was the sword. This was also the main reason why Suya took a liking to Su Wan. Seeing that the elders were starting to show off, Su Rue smiled at Su Wan and summoned his king's blade. He couldn't use Purple Ming right now. Purple Ming's killing aura was too important. He had to leave it for high-level magical beasts. Plus, the battle had just started. Su Rue didn't want to steal Su Ya's limelight. It wasn't easy for the Lord to be in the limelight. Amidst the sounds of fighting, Might City's defense battle had begun. This time, under Su Rue's suggestion, Long Qinzhan had activated the Castellan seal in advance to ask for help. As long as everyone could survive the first 2 days, by the 3rd day at the latest, reinforcements should arrive. It was night and the city was brightly lit. Thousands of families couldn't sleep. Outside the city, the sounds of fighting continued. The air was filled with the pungent smell of blood. Su Wan and Su Rue changed shifts and went home to rest. Both of them were covered in blood. Soaking in the warm and comfortable water, Su Wan finally let out a sigh of relief. Although many people in the Su family were injured today, no one died. But this was only the first day. What would happen tomorrow and the day after? When do you think the reinforcements will arrive? Su-won couldn't help but turn to look at Su-rue, who was soaking in another bathtub. 3 days at the latest. If they come quickly, they might arrive tomorrow evening. In the original plot, the bestial tide would happen a month later. At that time, due to the intense battle, Long Qianzhan had activated the Castellan seal before dying. It was also because of Long Qianzhan's death that the royal family realized the severity of the situation. That was why the royal family didn't hesitate to spend a large amount of resources to open the transmission array and send the reinforcements over. But this time, due to the changes in the situation, the reinforcements probably wouldn't use the transmission array. Even if they rushed here day and night, it would take at least 2 days, right? The two were discussing this when the door was suddenly pushed open. Su Pei's anxious voice rang through the screen. Master, Third Miss, the reinforcements are here. Voila. Su-rue couldn't help but stand up from the water. He pulled a robe and wrapped it around himself. That fast? Are they from the royal family's Summoners Academy? Yes. I heard that it's a group of new students that happen to be training nearby. Master Xiao is in there too. Su Pei quickly answered Su-rue's question. Xiao Yin came back? The male lead was indeed different. The bestial tide refreshed at a different time, but he still managed to come back. Heh. Chapter 259. Outside Might City. Even though it was late at night, the summoners were surrounded by all sorts of spiritual power fluorescence, making the night look like it was daytime. The Royal Family Summoners Academy's new students were all wearing the same black and gold uniform. Right now, they were in groups of 3 and were fighting against the magical beast army. Master, you can do it. Master, you're mighty. The cheers came from the south of the city. Xiao family was guarding the south of the city. Ever since Xiao Yin came back, the entire Xiao family was in a state of excitement. Even the summoners who had been fighting for the entire day returned to the battlefield in high spirits. East of the city, Su family's defense camp. Hearing the cheers from the south, Suya couldn't help but furrow his brows. Did you send someone back to inform the master? Yes, Lord Patriarch. Behind him was the clan's great elder. Hearing Suya's question, he immediately answered in a low voice. Oh? Suya lifted his brows. What did Johnner say? Cough. The great elder's expression was a bit awkward. Master sent someone to reply that he and Third Miss have already washed up and slept. Suya was speechless. Damn it, my son is really different. Cough, cough. I'm so angry that I'm going to die. Amen, Suya nodded, pretending to be calm. Then he said solemnly, Jean is farsighted. Fighting at night replenishes spiritual power slower. Plus, Xiao Yin fought through the night. He might not have the strength to continue tomorrow. Tomorrow is the real battle. The great elder was speechless. Lord, are you sure that's what Master thinks? Your ability to lie through your teeth is already maxed out. I admire you. Admire you. That night, there was another round of slaughter. The next morning, when Su-won woke up, she was still nestled in Su-rue's arms. She could see her man's unusually handsome face when she looked up. She had to be woken up by her man's handsomeness every day. She was so proud of herself. You're awake? At this time, Su-rue also opened his eyes, his sleepy voice mixed with hoarse laziness. Yes. Su-won slowly got up and frowned somewhat uncomfortably. Although the doors in the room were closed, too many magical beasts had died in yesterday's day and night of fighting. The unpleasant smell of blood had already filled the entire city. At this time, she could smell the unpleasant smell in the air from her room. Even if it was very faint, it still made people feel uncomfortable. Not feeling well? On the bed, Su-rue put on his clothes while looking at Su-won with concern. It's nothing. Su-won shrugged her shoulders. I reckon that the other side will send out a mid-level magical beast today. We're going to fight a tough battle this time. Yeah. Su-rue got off the bed. A sharp aura faintly discernible in his gaze, the ominous sword-purple underworld had finally come into play this time. It was said that once such a ferocious sword drank enough blood, it would possess its own spirituality and become the most supreme divine weapon. Ziming, this time, I'll let you eat until you're full. The morning sun was still dazzling, but the inside and outside of Might City was a mess. Countless medical teams and civilians had gathered in the city. They were actively applying medicine and bandaging the wounds of the wounded. On the city walls, the summoners were still fighting. The bright morning sun dyed the area outside the city red. The corpses of the magical beasts that had died yesterday had been trampled into mud by the magical beasts that had just arrived. The scene was too horrible to look at. When Su Rue and Su Wan walked side by side to the Su family's defensive position, Suya was still holding a red lotus and attacking from a distance with a large group of elders. Seeing his tired face, Su Rue's gaze flickered. He walked up and patted Suya's shoulder. "Father, rest for a bit." "Genre." Suya snapped out of his trance and saw the refreshed Su Rue behind him. "Damn brat, you finally know how to care for your father." A new group of magical beasts is coming soon. Right now, Su Rue didn't see Suya's excited expression. His gaze was fixed on the black, cloud-like group of magical beasts. His tone was much more serious than usual. "This group of magical beasts is really strong. You guys aren't their match, so you guys should take this chance to rest." Suya was speechless. "So I'm being looked down on by my son?" "Genre, your father is an advanced summoner too." Suya couldn't help but straighten his imposing body, letting Su Rue see his advanced summoner's robe. Although he had been a grade 2 summoner for many years, he was still a genuine advanced summoner. "I know." Su Rue didn't know whether to laugh or cry. "Father, you've been fighting for a day and a night already. I know you're capable, but the family needs you. You can't fall down now. You need to rest." "Yeah, clan leader. Clan leader. Rest well? Leave everything to the eldest master and us." The people around them couldn't help but echo Su Rue's words. A country couldn't go a day without a ruler. A large family couldn't go a day without a clan leader's management either. Perhaps Suya didn't look reliable, but in the eyes of the Su family, their clan leader was definitely the best and most reliable clan leader in the world. There was no one else like him. He was reliable when he turned off his phone. He was able to withstand danger. He was able to withstand life and death. Hearing everyone's voices, Suya nodded. "Okay, Genre, I'll leave everything to you and Xiao Wan. After this battle ends, father will marry you too. By then, our Su family will definitely hold a banquet and be lively for 3 days and 3 nights. Okay, our clan leader is mighty." Hearing Suya's words, the Su family's camp cheered again. The people who were tired from the night before were energized again. Okay. Seeing that the Su family's morale was high, Su Rue leaped onto the highest point of the city wall. "Su family's men who fought last night don't participate in the battle. Brothers, just stand here and cheer for me. I, the eldest master, will use the blood of these magical beasts to propose to Xiao Wan. If I don't kill all of these magical beasts, I, Su Zhan, won't get married." Saying this, Su Rue's spiritual influence surged. The violent spiritual power made the people around him narrow their eyes. Purple light appeared, and the ominous sword was born. The moment the ominous sword, Purple Ming, was summoned, it automatically flew out of Su Rue's palm. The smell of fresh blood was Purple Ming's favorite smell. Kill, 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 kill. There was nothing more delicious than fresh blood in this world. There was nothing more exciting than killing. The bloodthirsty, ominous sword let out an excited hum as it danced among the magical beasts, killing endlessly. Blood flowed like a river. On the city wall, Suya hadn't left yet. He quietly watched the lone silver-white figure within the surging magical beasts. Within the countless magical beasts, he seemed so insignificant yet so imposing. Master! Invincible! Master! Invincible! Everyone in the Su family's cheers floated above Might City and continuously spread throughout the center of the city. It was different from Xiao Yan's fight last night. Today, Su Rue was only one person, one sword. He wanted to fight against the entire magical beast horde on the east side of the city by himself. How crazy was this? Right now, Xiao Yan and the others had been fighting for the entire night and were about to return to the city to rest. Hearing Su family's cheers, Xiao Yan couldn't help but walk to the east gate. Right now, The group of people behind Xiao Yin also stared blankly at the graceful yet bloodthirsty person outside the city. Xiao Yin, that's Su Zhan? The people who came with Xiao Yin were naturally his good friends in school. They had heard Xiao Yin mention Su Zhan before and knew that Su Zhan was a genius in Might City. But what kind of monstrous person could there be in a small city? Needless to say, the people in the imperial capital were all arrogant and conceited. But seeing Su Rui's fighting style, they couldn't help but tremble with fear at his crazy killing. Humph, at this time, a cold and elegant young lady in the crowd couldn't help but snort. He didn't participate in the battle last night. He's naturally full of energy and spiritual power in the morning. I reckon he'll be back in less than 2 hours. Why is he pretending to be a hero? That's right, that's right. Senior Sister Yun is right. Hearing the young lady's words, the people around her couldn't help but agree as well. They were all geniuses of their respective families. They didn't want to believe that there was a genius who was 100 times more powerful than them among their peers. This wasn't logical. Su Zhan. Chapter 260. The scorching sun at noon burned people's eyes. The battle outside Might City was still ongoing. Right now, a large group of people had gathered in the Su family's camp. Xiao Yin and the Royal Family Summoners Academy's people were all there. 4 hours had passed since morning. The corpses of magical beasts outside the city had piled up into a mountain, but Su Rui's silver robe was still spotless. From disbelief in the beginning to shock and now, the Royal Family Summoners Academy's students were numb. Nanny. He wasn't a genius. He was a pure monstrous genius. Su Rui's battle didn't just shock the students. Even the other family's patriarchs and even the city lord, Long Qianzhan, who had taken the time to rest, couldn't help but be attracted by the Su family's shouts. Seeing the man and the sword and the corpses on the ground, everyone's expressions changed. Of course, compared to the other families, the Su family was happy from the bottom of their hearts. Especially the beginner summoners who had just come from the branch. Su Rui was the one who gave them the Yuling chant, giving them the chance to become summoners and experts. Now, Su Rui was showing off his power in front of them again. This man's figure was deeply imprinted in everyone's hearts. Even Su Chuan, who wasn't willing to admit that Su Zhan was really powerful, was captivated by Master Su's charm and became a hardcore fan. While everyone was staring at Su Rui, only Su Qing glanced at Su Wan silently. From morning until now, she had maintained the same posture, quietly standing by the wall. Her eyes had never left Su Zhan's figure. There was no joy, no panic, no anxiety, and no excitement. Su Wan's gaze gently and attentively fell on that person. From beginning to end, she seemed to be so persistent and firm in believing in him. Was this how they felt about each other? For a moment, Su Qing felt a bit sad but also gratified. When the sun set and the red clouds illuminated the entire Might City, Su Rui was the only one standing quietly on the eastern side of the city. There were millions of corpses beneath his feet. The so-called killing a person within 10 steps and invincible within 1,000 miles was nothing more than this. Under the setting sun, Su Rui quietly turned around. His deep and charming eyes quietly met Su Wan's eyes. The two people looked at each other for a long time, until Su Rui once again soared into the air. The spiritual power around him surged and pieces of spiritual clouds rapidly gathered above his head. This was the sign of advancing to a Grade 1 summoner. Patches of spiritual clouds gathered into a huge spiritual explosion that enveloped the sky above Might City. Moreover, it kept spreading in all directions. At that moment, the spiritual pressure that descended from the sky actually made the magical beasts around Might City retreat. At this moment, the battles in the other 3 directions were forced to stop. Those mid-level magical beasts that already had elementary intelligence actually started to retreat. Su Zhan actually advanced to a Grade 1 summoner on the battlefield. Everyone in Might City went crazy. As for the Royal Family Summoners Academy students, they were completely dumbfounded. Even Senior Sister Yunling, who had always looked down on Su Rui, paled. She stared in disbelief at the figure standing proudly under the spiritual explosion. How was this possible? He was only 20 years old. How could he have become a grade 1 summoner so quickly? Was he still human? Su Wan. Not even Su Wan was dumbfounded. General Su, you're actually the hidden male lead in this world, right? HM? You're invincible. Okay? Su Rue was speechless. Nanny, this general was dumbfounded too, okay? In the eyes of outsiders, Master Su was invincible. Right now, under the spiritual explosion, he still looked aloof on the outside. However, he was actually feeling bitter inside. At this moment, Su Rue finally understood why he became Su Zhan in the mission. According to the original plot, Su Zhan and Su Wu were biological siblings. What the fuck was he supposed to be? So there really was a hidden plot here. Su Zhan wasn't Su Zhan at all. 3 years ago, when the real Su Zhan went to the Sunset Mountains to train, he encountered a rare time and space storm. By the time Su Liang found him, he was already on the verge of death. Later on, Su Liang brought Su Zhan to a cave to recuperate. It was at that time that the real Su Zhan had died. The Su Zhan that Su Liang saved was actually someone else's illusion. This person was the instigator of the time and space storm. He suppressed his aura and power to teleport himself to Dongchuan's mainland. He came from the abyss of hell. He was a demon king. What kind of setting was this? No wonder his advancement had been so smooth. There seemed to be an endless amount of spiritual influence in his body. General Su was speechless. What hidden plot? Why didn't the logistics department just send it over when they sorted out the information? They even had to set up automatically unlocking memories after advancing to a grade 1 summoner joke. You guys aren't happy if you don't get ridiculed? Alright, at this point, General Su had to admit it. As an affectionate male supporting lead, having this kind of magical setting seemed to be a common thing? What demon king? Thinking about it wasn't bad. Su Rue raised his hand and slightly released a trace of demonic qi. The purple Ming sword in his hand immediately soared into the sky. The purple qi that lingered around the sword's body began to slowly turn black. The demonic qi that was so purple that it turned black instantly broke through the layer of spiritual explosion clouds in the sky. Advancement successful? A jet-black sickle descended from the sky. Sickle of Death, the divine weapon carried by the ancient death god. Might City. The moment Su Rue released the demonic aura, Little White suddenly scuttled out of his room. He couldn't help but look at the sky that had changed color. This aura, this feeling is a demon? Before it could react, the spiritual clouds in the sky dissipated, and the Grim Reaper's scythe descended. Feeling the heavy and despairing aura of death, Little White couldn't help but take a few steps back. Who could actually summon an ancient divine weapon? This was definitely different from the so-called divine weapons in Dongchuan's mainland. This was something that a true god had once used. The moment the sickle of death appeared, a blond man in the faraway Sunset Mountains suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood, his face incomparably pale. King, what's wrong? The high-level magical beasts all gathered around and looked at the golden-haired man sitting cross-legged in the teleportation circle with concern. It's a god. No, it's a demon. A trace of fear flickered through the man's golden eyes. He used his blood to draw a few golden runes on the teleportation array. Following his low roar, the magical beasts outside Might City all retreated like a tide. You want to leave after taking advantage of us? Su Rue had already grasped the sickle of death in his hands after seeing through the other's intentions. Right now, he floated in midair and a strange purple aura flashed through his black eyes. Since you're here, then stay. No matter who you are, I'll let you know that not everyone has the right to touch Might City. As the sickle of death swung down, the dark aura of death enveloped the sky within 100 miles of Might City. A sharp black light flashed past, and the entire magical beast army outside the city turned into white bones in an instant. The golden-haired man who was far away in the Sunset Mountains was also injured by the black light that flew out from the teleportation formation, and once again spat out a large mouthful of golden blood. When the black light dissipated, the world returned to its original color. Everyone in Might City was dumbfounded at the sight of the white bones outside the city. He killed all the magical beasts with one move. Master Su, did your universe explode? Chapter 261. Due to Su Rue's heaven-defying advancement, the battle in Might City ended early. The four major families started sending people to clean up the battlefield. By the time the royal family's reinforcements arrived, the entire city had recovered its peace and cleanliness. The entire city's atmosphere was lively. Su residence was even more crowded and bustling. The leader of the reinforcements sent by the royal family just so happened to be the Royal Family Summoners Academy's intermediate teacher, Yun Fan. He was also Yun Ling's uncle. He heard about Master Su from his niece and found out that there was such a monstrous genius hidden in this small city. Yun Fan was excited. This was like a meat pie falling from the sky. As long as he could summon him back to the academy, it'd definitely be a great achievement. The principal would definitely be really happy, and he'd be one step closer to being promoted. Just as Yun Fan thought about his future and brought a group of students to visit the Su family, he was told that Master Su was in seclusion and wouldn't see anyone. Yun Fan was speechless. He was in seclusion right after advancing? This didn't make sense. Cough, Teacher Yun. Seeing that Yun Fan was suspicious of Su family's words and was about to charge into Su Zhan's courtyard with a cold expression, Xiao Yin, who was familiar with Su family's situation, couldn't help but take a step forward and whisper in Yun Fan's ears. What exactly was Master Su's so-called seclusion? It wasn't a secret in Might City. Hearing Xiao Yan's words, Yun Fan was dumbfounded. Nanny, please forgive him for being ignorant. He lived for half his life, but this was the first time Yun Fan heard that someone could advance while doing something. Plus, he could advance so quickly and in such a monstrous manner. Amen. Okay. Since your family's master is, in seclusion, then I'll visit another day. Yun Fan awkwardly brought a group of people and left majestically. When he left, he happened to bump into Su Wu and Su Qing, who had just returned from training. In the original plot, Yun Fan was the one who came to support Su Wu. He was the one who had discerning eyes and discovered Su Wu, the future genius main character. Unfortunately, Yun Fan was too preoccupied with Su Zhan's matter that he didn't notice the female lead who brushed past him. On the contrary, Xiao Yan's gaze brightened when he saw Su Wu. He hesitated, wanting to go up and talk to her. Unfortunately, Su Wu had been chatting with Su Qing the entire time. She didn't see the male lead who brushed past her. Xiao Yan. After they left, Su Qing paused and glanced at Su Wu. That was Master Xiao, right? He seemed to have something to say to you? Su Qing had always been a meticulous person. He had long noticed Xiao Yan's hesitation. You mean Xiao Yan? I have nothing to say to him. Su Wu couldn't help but shrug when she heard Su Qing's words. Oh. Hearing Su Wu's words, Su Qing nodded silently. During this period of interaction, Su Qing and the others had gradually integrated into the Su family. Although the summoners in the Su family looked down on them in the beginning and called their training ground useless training camp behind their backs, everyone had done their best in the beast tide this time. Right now, Su Qing was already a level 8 summoner while Su Wu had advanced to level 7 a long time ago. They were no longer good-for-nothings. They were now respectable summoners. After fighting side by side this time, the direct descendants of the Su family began to gradually accept them, and no one looked down on them anymore. Although Su Qing knew that he was far from being a genius compared to Su Zhan, he had finally started a brand new life for himself. The two walked side by side and unknowingly arrived outside Su Rue's courtyard. Xiao Wu, be good. A huge figure suddenly pounced over. Su Wu didn't expect this and was almost knocked down by Little White. Thankfully, Su Qing was quick and helped her up. Are you okay? Su Qing looked at Su Wu a bit worriedly. Su Wu smiled helplessly. I'm fine. Little White, you're getting heavier and heavier. Little White was speechless. This divine beast is actually being looked down on? Wait, I think I'm paying attention to the wrong direction. Who is this pretty boy? Why is he standing so close to my Xiao Wu? He even dared to hold her waist just now? Who are you? Little White circled to the side and looked at Su Qing with hostility. Su Qing was speechless. Everyone in the Su residence knew that the young master had a pet that could talk. Now that Little White was full of hostility towards him, Su Qing was confused. I'm Su Qing, and you're Little White. Su Qing? Hearing Su Qing's words, Little White glanced at him suspiciously. Why did this name sound so familiar? It seemed like... Little White suddenly lifted his two front paws and shouted excitedly, "Your master's love rival." Love rival. Su Qing's expression turned awkward. Su Wu looked at Su Qing playfully and said, "HM? Brother Su Qing, so you like Sister Xiao Wu?" "No, no, no. Actually, we're just neighbors." Su Qing scrambled to explain for a long time, and his face turned red from holding it in. Su Wu's gaze flickered and she couldn't help but laugh. "No wonder elder brother insisted on putting me in your group." As soon as Su Wu said this, Su Qing's expression turned even more distressed. Everyone knew what Master Su was thinking. Su Wu was speechless about her elder brother's little scheme. Love and friendship were different. No matter if it was spending time together or being in a favorable position, if there wasn't a feeling of being moved, any interaction would be futile. Su Wu could tell that Su Qing still liked Su Wan. Even if he hid his feelings deep down, Su Wu still noticed it with her sharp eyes. This man's expression was rare. He was a rare good person. Unfortunately, he wasn't her type. Inside the residence, in the bedroom, although Su Rue was in the room, he spread his spiritual power and heard everything that happened in the residence clearly. He wasn't surprised that Yun Fan came. In the original plot, Su Zhan hadn't advanced to a grade 1 summoner yet because he hadn't recovered his true memories. In the end, he naturally followed Yun Fan, Su Wu, and Xiao Yin into the royal family's Summoners Academy. In the academy, he did his best to protect his sister, and his relationship with Su Wu grew better and better. This led to him still being unable to let go of Su Wu even after he recovered his true memories a year later. Actually, he could have left Arinda country at that time. With his original cultivation, there were very few who could rival him in the entire Dongchuan mainland. But for his beloved girl, he actually chose to silently become a grade 1 summoner. He accompanied and protected her all the way until Su Wu and Xiao Yin got together. He still wished them well as her older brother. The so-called affectionate supporting male lead was a synonym for suffering and moronic. "What are you thinking about?" Su Wan leaned against Su Rue's ears and whispered. Hearing his wife's voice, Su Rue's gaze darkened and he smiled. "I'm thinking. I'm a demon. Now that I've formed a contract with Little White, what do you think he'll do if he finds out that I'm a demon one day?" Su Wan blinked. In the original plot, Su Zhan had been hiding his identity for the sake of love. No one had discovered his identity. But now, at least, the king of magical beasts in the Sunset Mountains knew his true identity now. Even if he knows you're a demon, he can't do anything. Su Wan could see Little White's true nature clearly. That foodie had no integrity and would do anything to anyone. Su Rue smiled and kissed the corner of her eyes. "Wife, father is going to help us get married in a few days. I'm so happy that I can marry you again." Su Wan was speechless. Chapter 262. 3 days later, when everything in Might City had returned to normal, Su family was also decorated with lanterns and colored banquets. They held a banquet for Su Wan and Su Rue's wedding. This time, Su De and his wife were naturally honored guests. The entire Su family village attended the wedding banquet. This was the grandest wedding ever since Might City was built. The ordinary citizens of Might City and the leaders of the other families all prepared gifts and came to attend the wedding banquet. Su Zhan's performance a few days ago had completely conquered the hearts of the people of Might City. Even the chiefs of the other 3 families had given up on competing with the Su family. Right now, Su family was undoubtedly the #1 family in Might City. Xiao family could only silently concede without any complaints. The Castellan, Long Qianzhan, also came to attend the wedding banquet with a great gift. Suya even pulled him to be the witness for the wedding. A summoner's wedding wasn't complicated. Su Rue and Su Wan both wore bright red wedding gowns with golden patterns. The two rode on strong magical beasts and circled around the city, receiving everyone's blessings. On the night of their wedding night, during the imperial examinations, this was the happiest thing in his life. Even though it wasn't his first marriage, General Su acted like it was his first time getting married. He was really excited. Feeling Su Rue's hands around her getting tighter and tighter, Su Wan leaned into his embrace and couldn't help but smile. When you find that person in the vast sea of people, you'll truly understand the meaning of happiness. You don't need to go through any storms, nor do you need an earth-shattering confession. As long as the two are together, even if they don't do anything, they'll still be filled with happiness. Tonight, the red brocade fluttered. It was another night of entanglement. The next day, the Sue family did whatever they needed to do. As for the master and young madam, did you expect them to come out on the first day of their wedding? You're too naive. Su Liang, I bet 10 gold coins that it'll take at least 5 days this time. Su Pei, stingy. I bet 20 gold coins that it'll take at least 7 days. Su Ya, 1,000 gold coins for 10 days. Su Liang and Su Pei were speechless. Lord Patriarch, can you still let us poor people play happily? Elder, Master, you should hurry back to your room and take your medicine. Suya was speechless. A month later, Xiao Yin and his companions, who had finished the trial, embarked on the journey back to the capital. However, Mr. Yun Fan, who was full of hope and intended to abduct the genius back to the academy, had to return in frustration. Forget about Su Zhan. Even the other members of the Su family wouldn't leave with him. The Royal Summoners Academy was awesome? The Royal Summoners Academy was full of geniuses? Is he as awesome as our young master? Is there a genius like our young master? In short, he wouldn't regret following the eldest young master. The Su brothers expressed that they would go wherever the eldest young master was. Teacher Yun, who was provoked by the Su family's contempt, could only leave with tears streaming down his face. After Yun Fan and his group left, the royal family's reward arrived as promised. This time, Su family had helped the city lord fight against the magical beasts. Orinda country's royal family wanted to rope in the Su family. Of course, they were only interested in the genius Su Zhan. In order to rope in this genius, the royal family had spared no expense this time. The cultivation resources that were bestowed were simply dazzling. The rewards that everyone was envious of were distributed by Su Rue to the children of the Su family with a wave of his hand. No matter if it was the direct line of descent or the new army of the branch, everyone received a lot of cultivation resources. Many people in Might City were impressed by Su family's rapid development and young Master Su's domineering attitude. Right now, Su family's summoner army was starting to take shape. Seeing that Su Zhan had trained the good-for-nothings into summoners with extraordinary abilities, the commoners in the city started to get restless. Finally, one day, an old man and his grandson knelt in front of Su residence's door. He hoped that Su family could accept his grandson. They were willing to sign a soul contract with Su family just to get a chance for their grandson to become a summoner. Once there was one, there would be a second. Soon, all the hopeful people in Might City gathered at the Su family's residence. After the initial screening, a large portion of them were kept by Su Rue. Su family actually didn't need manpower anymore. But since Su Rue wanted Su family to become the #1 family in Might City, he couldn't lose the support of the commoners. A year later, Su family's new summoner army had expanded to 1,000 people. Right now, Su Wu was a grade 5 intermediate summoner. Su Qing and Su Ji had also advanced to intermediate summoner. Right now, the three of them had become the leaders of their respective summoner teams. They were like the direct descendants of Su family, leading their teams to work for the family. In a year's time, Su Rue was still a grade 1 summoner. Actually, he could break through to grade 1. Above grade 1 summoner was a new realm known as an Earth grade summoner. Earth grade summoners were divided into 3 ranks. After the Earth grade was the Heaven grade and then the King grade. Currently, the highest rank on the mainland was known as an Emperor summoner. With Su Rue's current identity as a Demon King, he could directly become a King grade summoner if he circulated the spiritual qi in his body. But ranks were useless to him. In this year, Su Wan had also advanced to a grade 3 summoner. The two loved each other, and Su family was thriving. Even Su Zhan's realm that had remained stagnant for many years was showing signs of breaking through. In short, everything was developing in a good direction, but Su Wan's mission didn't make any progress. Su Wu was the true eldest miss of Su family now. She also forgave Suya for not caring about her back then. Actually, Master Su wasn't as cold and heartless as Su Wu imagined him to be. These days, Su Wu gradually understood that not caring about her useless daughter back then was perhaps Su Ya's way of protecting her. Right now, Suwoo was peacefully staying in the Su family to assist her brother and father. She didn't have too much ambition. It could be said that Suwon's plan from the start was mostly successful. It was just that the female lead's love life was still blank. Far away in the imperial capital, Xiaoyan didn't seem to have fallen in love with someone else either. Therefore, the mission was stuck here without any progress. Seeing that there was no hope on Su Qing's side, Su Rue could only take a risk this time. You're really going to do this? After knowing Su Rue's thoughts, Su Wan was a bit surprised. She never thought of using this method because she wasn't sure if he could do it or not. I've already decided. What do you think? Su Rue looked at Su Wan with a smile, waiting for her answer. I'll support whatever you decide. Su Wan winked at Su Rue. As the saying goes, the wife follows the husband. Madame Su never vetoed her man's suggestions. Therefore, that night, on a cloudy night, Little White was sleeping soundly in its room. Suddenly, it smelled the familiar yet terrifying demonic aura. It opened its eyes abruptly, and what appeared in front of it was a pair of demonic purple eyes. This is... Chapter 263. Demon King? Master, how are you? Little White's hairs stood on end as he looked at Su Rue. His enormous snow-white body kept retreating. I'm a demon, Su Rue slowly said, his tone low and dangerous. Now that you know my identity, I'll give you two choices. Submit or die. Little White, damn. Live or die? This is a difficult question. Seeing that Little White was still hesitating, Su Rue's purple eyes flickered, and he summoned a pitch-black dagger. This was his demonic sword from the abyss. This was the first time he summoned it after coming to Dongchuan mainland. The surging demonic aura made Little White unable to breathe. Was he going to die? Was he going to die? Right now, Little White's mind suddenly became clear. No matter if it was a god or a demon, they were all in the past. The mainland was ruled by humans right now. What was the point of being entangled with a god or a demon? Master, Little White's gaze brightened and he quickly spoke. Before he could finish, the pitch-black demonic sword was already slashing down. I know your choice. What followed was Su Rue's voice. He and Little White had a contract, so Su Rue could naturally hear its thoughts. Little White was speechless. You knew, and you still slashed down. Damn. Master, you're really demonic late at night. Su Wu was sleeping soundly in her room when hurried footsteps suddenly rang out in the courtyard. Who is it? Su Wu, who had been an assassin her entire life, woke up with a start. Her gaze was cold and sharp. Eldest miss. Su Pei's anxious voice rang from outside the door. Eldest miss, hurry and open the door. Little White, he's going to die soon. What? Su Wu didn't even have time to put on her outerwear. She ran to the door in her thin underwear and opened it. Su Pei stood there anxiously. She was hugging a small white thing in front of her chest. This was Little White? How did he become like this? Right now, Little White didn't have a huge body anymore. He was just a small ball, much smaller than when he first woke up. What happened to him? Su Wu lifted her hands and carried Little White in her arms out of habit. She looked at Su Pei and asked nervously. I don't know. Young master told me to bring it to you. It's shivering all over, and it's hot and cold. It looks very uncomfortable. Su Pei didn't know what was wrong with Little White. She just followed Su Rue's orders. Little White? Hearing Su Pei's words, Su Wu lowered her gaze in concern. She called out softly and raised her hand to gently stroke Little White's fur like before. Xiao Wu is good. Feeling Su Wu's aura, Little White subconsciously burrowed into her arms. This sudden change in temperature made Little White feel like he was really going to die. Not every divine beast could endure the demonic aura entering their body. Master, you're really ruthless. Seeing Little White's trembling body, Su Wu had no choice. After sending Su Pei away, she carried Little White back to her bed. Just like before, she carried him and let him nestle in her warm blanket. Meanwhile, Su Wan's hand was placed on Little White's body. She slowly transferred her spiritual power to him. After a while, the cold aura on Little White's body finally dissipated. Slowly, white and translucent silk-like white threads flowed out of his body, wrapping him up. As time went on, the white thread slowly turned black and half white. What was this? Suwoo didn't know anything about this. But for Little White's safety, she quietly watched over him until the sun was about to rise. After confirming that Little White wouldn't be in any danger, Suwoo finally closed her eyes and slept for a while. Before she could truly fall asleep, she was woken up by the movements beside her. A pair of smooth and warm arms unknowingly climbed onto her body. Suwoo suddenly opened her eyes and lifted her arm, elbowing it in a familiar manner. The person she hit held his stomach and opened his clear and innocent eyes, looking at her pitifully. Xiaowu, be good. Why did you hit me? It hurts. Suwoo was speechless. What was going on? Why did she hear Little White talking to her? Suwoo turned her head and met the eyes of the young man by the bed. Longly. Seeing a naked, handsome young man lying on her bed, and this handsome young man was the one that the previous owner of this body had a crush on, how could Suwoo remain calm? The Long-Li on the bed flipped over and laid on his stomach. He batted his long eyelashes and smiled at Suwoo. I knew you like me like this. Come, Xiaowu, be good. Hug. Scram. Suwoo hurriedly jumped off her bed in shock. You, just who are you? You're Little White? That's right. The handsome young man in front of her was indeed the divine beast Little White. Last night, Su-Rue used the demonic sword to injure Little White. In reality, he was just seriously carrying out the demon race's contract ceremony. Now, Little White had truly recognized Su-Rue as his master. Su-Rue's demonic aura had also broken the demonic seal in Little White's body. After the seal disappeared, Little White recovered his spiritual power. At the same time, according to the divine beast's transformation pattern, he could automatically transform into the appearance he wanted to transform into. Because Little White was awakened by Suwoo, he naturally had deep feelings for her. In the past, when he was with Suwoo, he always heard people say that Suwoo had a crush on Long-Li. At that time, Little White had also seen Long-Li from afar. Therefore, when he transformed, he subconsciously transformed into Long-Li's appearance. As the saying goes, women are afraid of pestering men. General Su's ultimate move this time was the divine beast Little White. That's right. Little White was actually one of the male supporting roles in this world. He had another name in his clan, by Mulin. Ever since Little White transformed into Long-Li, he chased after Suwoo all day, begging for hugs. He caused Suwoo's residence to be in chaos. As for this fake Master Long that suddenly appeared, Su family gradually became numb from the initial shock. Especially after seeing that this Master White who looked exactly like Master Long was actually an advanced summoner, Suya was so happy that he was ready to marry his daughter to him. Suwoo was speechless. So in the end, I'm still a stepmother, right? In order to avoid Suya's forced marriage, Suwoo dragged the simple-minded Suchuan and a few friends out of Might City to train in the Sunset Mountains. Su-Rue naturally had a good grasp of Suwoo's whereabouts. Without another word, he kicked by Mulin to the Sunset Mountains. Coincidentally, there was a magical beast king there. Getting rid of him would be the best of both worlds. 3 years later, Long Qinjian officially stepped down as the Castellan of Might City a month ago. The new Castellan was chosen by the royal family, and in the end, Suya became the Castellan. Not only did Master Su advance from a Grade 2 summoner to a Grade 1, but he also became the Castellan of the city from the head of the family. This was double happiness for the Su family. Of course, Suya had been thinking about something else all this time. When his son and daughter-in-law gave him a fat grandson, Master Su would feel that his life was complete. Su-Rue and Suwon were powerless towards Suya's wish, but it didn't mean that others couldn't either. When Suwoo, who hadn't returned for 3 years, returned to Might City with her family, Castellan Su was grinning from ear to ear. Although Suwoo wasn't as domineering as she was in the original plot, she had a loyal divine beast husband and a little bun by her side. The family of 3 also took in a magical beast king as a mount in the Sunset Mountains. A certain golden python king. Sniff, 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 this is an unlucky year. If I hadn't been injured by the Demon King's sickle back then, how could I have been defeated by you guys? By Mulin. This is fate. That's right. This is fate. Everyone's life would walk on a completely different path under fate's arrangements. For example, Xiao Yin, who was far away in the imperial capital, was already with Zhao Chuiying. As usual, Zhao Weiying was also walking on the path of a vicious supporting female character who wanted to steal her brother-in-law. Back then, Su Wu's friends who went to the Sunset Mountains with her had all achieved success and recognition. A large group of famous summoners walked out of Might City. This city had become Orinda Country's representative city. Although it belonged to Orinda Country, everyone on the mainland knew that this city belonged to Su Wu. Ever since Castellan Su had a grandson, he immediately passed the Castellan position to Su Rue and went home to play with his grandson. While the entire Might City, the entire Orinda Country, and even the entire mainland were anxiously waiting to see how the genius master Su was going to develop Might City, Su Rue tossed his hands and handed Might City over to Su Wu and Bai Mulan. Xiao Bai, I'm going back to the demon realm. You and Xiao will have to look after our family. Before I come back, don't leave Might City. Back then, his words before he left still lingered in their ears. Now, Bai Mulan, screw you. Screw you. Cough. I think he's talking about me. In short, Su Zhan, you heartless person. You and your wife left just like that. And this time, you'll be gone for the rest of your life. You can't play with me like this, okay? This divine beast wanted to take my wife and children to explore the mainland while I was still young. But because of your words, I'm trapped in a city for the rest of my life. The rest of my life, that's right. After Su Wu and her family of 3 returned home, Su Wan received the news that the mission was successful. There were many talented people in this world. Su Wu was no longer the high and mighty female lead, and she wasn't with Xiao Yin. But wouldn't she be happy if she wasn't the female lead? There were many times when happiness was in the palm of your hand. As long as you were willing to hold it tightly, it definitely wouldn't slip away. Before Su Wan and Su Rue left the mainland, they went to see Su Qing. Su Qing was a grade 1 summoner in name and in reality. His future was limitless. It could even be said that he was the new main lead in this world that Su Wan and Su Rue personally created. Try and see if my cooking skills have deteriorated or not. Before they parted ways, Su Qing personally cooked a feast for the two. Back in Su family village, Su Wan promised Su Qing that she would try his cooking when she had time. Now was the time for her to fulfill her promise. This could also be considered as a perfect ending to the long-lost first love on behalf of the original owner of the body. After eating, Su Rue left with Su Wan. They weren't going back to the demon realm. They were going to leave this mainland. Su Qing had been standing on the hillside watching the two leave together. He couldn't help but smile faintly. Xiao Wan, you're so lucky. Chapter 264. The water in the shower continued to flow downwards. The entire bathroom was covered in mist. Su Wan opened her eyes to find that she was curled up in a corner of the bathroom. The pure white towel on her body was already wet. The 60-something degree hot water poured on her head. Su Wan uncomfortably wiped her face and supported herself against the pure white ceramic tile to stand up. This was a luxurious guest room in a star hotel. She only needed to look at the bathroom's decorations to understand. Slowly walking to the sink, Su Wan lifted her hand to wipe away the mist on the mirror. A beautiful but pale face was reflected in the clean mirror. Movie Empress Su Wan. Her identity in this mission world. Su Wan lifted her hand to touch her face. In this world, next month was the original body, Su Wan's 30th birthday. 30 years old. To an ordinary woman, she was no longer young. Thankfully, in the entertainment circle, female stars were good at taking care of their skin. Even if she was 30 years old, the owner of this body could still act as an 18-year-old girl in any TV series without any pressure. The original body was discovered by a talent scout when she was 17 years old. She acted while going to school. Now that she had entered the industry for 12 years, she was fully deserving of being a movie empress. In China's entertainment circle, everyone thought that she was a winner in life. Before 30 years old, she was already the #1 sister in the entertainment circle. She had won 2 Movie Empress Awards. Plus, she had a rich boyfriend who loved her a lot. Lu Jun, the male lead of this world. He was Su Wan's biggest fan and also her boyfriend. Emin, he was her ex now. Just 3 months ago, Lu Jun was planning to propose to Soo Won on her 30th birthday. Then the two would enter the wedding hall as expected. But this was only 3 months ago. Just 2.5 months ago, Lu Jun got into an accident on his way home from a business meeting. He was unconscious in the hospital for a day. When Soo Won finished her work and flew back to see him, Lu Jun broke up with her indifferently. The two had been together for 5 years. Because of the Lu family's strict rules, the two had always treated each other with respect and didn't cross the bottom line. Soo Won had always thought that Lu Jun didn't love her as much as she imagined. Therefore, while she felt hurt when Lu Jun suddenly broke up, she couldn't accept his so-called incompatible personalities excuse at all. The two had a huge fight in the hospital. The photos of the fight were taken by the paparazzi from the biggest Rising Sun magazine in the entertainment circle. The next day, the news of Soo Won being dumped by Lu Jun immediately appeared on the headlines of major media outlets. From then on, Soo Won started getting into trouble. The water in the entertainment circle was very deep. It might be very difficult for a person to become famous overnight from an invisible person, but it was not impossible to pull a person down from the altar and make her infamous overnight. After Soo Won and Lu Jun broke up, the paparazzi from Shiri magazine dug out photos of Soo Won attending a gathering of wealthy businessmen when she wasn't that popular yet. The report hinted that Lu Jun dumped Soo Won because of her improper behavior in seducing men. For a moment, the image that Soo Won had built up in the entertainment circle for 12 years collapsed. At this time, there really were prostitutes in the entertainment circle who went to look for Soo Won. As it turned out, after the news of her breaking up with Lu Jun got out of hand, many wealthy businessmen who had their eyes on her went to Lu Jun to find out what was going on. They found out that Lu Jun really didn't care about her. The wealthy businessmen who had been drooling over her beauty didn't hesitate to make a move. Soo Won naturally rejected this sudden business. She admitted that she did like money. Back then, she got together with Lu Jun because of his family background. But not everyone could enter her eyes. Didn't she keep her chastity all these years because she wanted to leave the entertainment circle and marry into a rich and powerful family with a justifiable reason? After Soo Won rejected the wealthy businessmen, some people started to trip her up, causing her to lose a few endorsements and film contracts. At the same time, there were more and more reports on her scandals in the major newspapers and magazines. They were getting more and more realistic. People's mouths could melt gold. In the entertainment circle, who could tell what was real and what was fake? Especially a female celebrity who stood in a high position. There were many people who were fans of her, but there were even more people who didn't like her. The internet was scary and the power of anti-fans was boundless. While she was under pressure, Soo Won thought of asking Lu Jun for help. After all, the two of them had been together for 5 years. Even if they weren't sincere, they still had some feelings for each other, right? Soo Won disguised herself and went to Lu Jun's villa alone. When they broke up, she didn't return the keys to the villa to Lu Jun. Therefore, this time, Soo Won easily entered Lu Jun's private villa. But as soon as she entered, she saw Lu Jun and another woman lingering on the sofa. At this moment, she finally understood that Lu Jun's so-called incompatible personalities was just an excuse for him to fall in love with someone else. What Soo Won couldn't accept the most was that she actually knew the woman with Lu Jun Yilu, an unknown person in the entertainment circle. She had been playing small roles in the film and television city for a living. Later on, Soo Won's manager, Wu Tong, met her by chance. Because he noticed that her back was really similar to Soo Won's, Wu Tong signed a contract with Yilu and let her be Soo Won's substitute. She was a movie empress, but she was stolen by a substitute who played small roles? Soo Won naturally rushed up to teach Yilu a lesson, but Lu Jun protected Yilu fiercely. Plus, he even said on the spot that if Soo Won dared to touch Yilu, he would ban Soo Won from the entertainment circle. Ban her? What an arrogant tone. Soo Won returned to her apartment, flustered and exasperated. She immediately called Wu Tong and told him about Yilu, and Lu Jun. Wu Tong thought that this was an opportunity for Soo Won to turn the situation around and gain sympathy. Therefore, he immediately contacted a few magazines he was familiar with and exposed Lu Jun and Yilu's hot news. These magazines sent people to wait outside Lu Jun's private villa. They really did manage to take intimate photos of Lu Jun and Yilu. Once the news came out, the internet went into an uproar. The originally unknown Yilu immediately became a trending topic. She was even called a shameless mistress by the water army hired by Wu Tong. Right at this time, Lu Jun suddenly posted a long post on Weibo. One was to clarify that he and Yilu only got together after breaking up with Su Wan. The other was to publicly declare that Yilu was his true love. The two of them regretted not meeting each other earlier and that he wouldn't marry anyone other than Yilu. This affectionate confession immediately caused a large group of netizens to bow down to President Lu's handsome and affectionate expression. At this time, the water army hired by Wu Tong also started betraying him and attacking Su Wan because they accepted Lu Jun's money. What did it mean to suffer a double loss? This was it. This time, Su Wan really had nowhere else to go. She wasn't willing to let the image she had painstakingly built up be destroyed. She also couldn't lose her position in the circle after losing the chance to marry into an aristocratic family. Therefore, she finally hardened her heart and quietly contacted a young master from an influential family who had always been interested in her. This young Master Qin was a well-known romantic figure, but his family had money and power. Su Wan couldn't care too much at this time. At this time, she could only use her body to exchange for her future and prospects. Su Wan, you're not done yet? Master Qin's impatient voice rang from outside the bathroom. Su Wan turned around and adjusted the water temperature of the shower. Then she opened the bathroom door. Seeing her wet appearance, Master Qin couldn't help but furrow his brows. What are you doing? Master Qin, I accidentally wet my bathrobe. Go wash it first. I've adjusted the water temperature. I'll call the front desk and have them send a new bath towel over. Su Wan lowered her eyebrows and whispered. Hearing her words, although Master Qin was a bit unhappy, he still nodded. Okay, hurry up. Okay. Seeing Master Qin enter the bathroom, Su Wan immediately returned to the bedroom in the suite. She wiped the water off her body and quickly changed her clothes. Then she hurriedly called Wu Tong. Wu Tong. Sister Wan, why? Don't talk nonsense. Drive the car to the back door of the hotel. Wait for me in the car. Su Wan anxiously hung up. She knew that in a few minutes, the guest room would be surrounded by a group of paparazzi. What she needed to do now was to leave this place as soon as possible. Chapter 265. When Su Wan hurriedly came out from the back door of the hotel, Wu Tong's black Lexus was already parked there. Su Wan quickly opened the car door and jumped in. Take a few laps and then take me to eat. Throwing down this sentence, Su Wan immediately buckled the cap on her head on her face, and her whole body relaxed as she leaned on the back seat. Seeing that Su Wan seemed to be really tired, Wu Tong didn't say anything. He started the car and slowly drove out of the street. This car was his private property. The media hadn't dug it out, but for safety reasons, he still followed Su Wan's orders and drove a few laps around the city. Right now, Su Wan was still leaning against the back seat. She looked like she was taking a nap, but in reality, Su Wan was quietly thinking about the plot of this world. This was a novel world about rebirth in the entertainment circle, and Lu Jun was the male lead of this world who had been reborn. In her past life, Lu Jun successfully proposed on Su Wan's birthday. After the two got married, because of the Lu family's strict rules, Su Wan gave up her career in the entertainment circle and focused on becoming a rich and powerful woman. Lu Jun's mother, Madame Lu, was a famous iron lady in the upper class. She was very domineering and had always looked down on Su Wan's background. Thankfully, Su Wan was good at acting. Even if she disliked Madame Lu, she still acted like a sensible daughter-in-law on the surface and did everything she should do. Originally, this could be considered a happy and peaceful life. But at this time, the financial crisis struck and the Lu family's business suffered a huge blow. At such a crucial moment, Lu Jun's business rival, the second master of the Yi family, Yi Shaochuan, found Su Wan. He gave Su Wan a sum of money and told her to help him steal a very important document from Lu Jun. Su Wan actually agreed? Fine. Su Wan was speechless at such a miraculous plot. Therefore, don't try to talk logic with the authors of romance novels, because they were just a bunch of people with no logic at all. In short, in order to let the male lead and female lead be together, all the supporting characters and cannon fodder's IQ and behavior were hopelessly stupid. Therefore, under the arrangement of the powerful plot god, Soo-won was possessed and actually stole her husband's business contract that was worth tens of billions for a bit of money. In the end, she successfully made her husband bankrupt. After the Liu family went bankrupt, Soo-won immediately divorced Liu Jun and left the country with the money Yi Xiaochuan gave her. Liu Jun lost everything just like that. Madame Liu couldn't take this blow and passed away because she couldn't take this blow. Right now, as the villain boss, Yi Xiaochuan, he couldn't help but use one of the villain's necessary skills. He appeared in front of Liu Jun proudly and mocked him while exposing Soo-won's true colors. Feeling that he had been deceived by his beloved wife, Liu Jun, who had suffered a serious blow, was unable to recover from this setback. From a dignified young master of a wealthy family, he had become a vagabond. At this time, the male lead's life appeared. On the way home, Yi Lu encountered the starving and cold Liu Jun. Because she had seen Liu Jun a few times while working for Soo-won, she took him home after recognizing him. From then on, the innocent minor character started to take care of Liu Jun slowly. Liu Jun started to believe in love again. The two fell in love after interacting with each other day and night. However, Yi Lu had no choice but to work harder to be a substitute for minor characters in the film and television city. In the end, when she was participating in a drama of the Republic of China, there was a problem with the props. During an explosion scene, Yi Lu accidentally got seriously injured and lay unconscious in the hospital. Liu Jun was filled with regret after hearing this news. He ran out of the house like a madman, wanting to visit the seriously injured Yi Lu in the hospital. In the end, he got into a car accident on the way. By the time Liu Jun woke up from the car accident, he realized that he had returned to 2 years ago. This was the most precious gift that the heavens had given him. After seeing Soo-won in the hospital, he broke up with her without hesitation. After leaving the hospital, Liu Jun searched for Yi Lu everywhere. When he saw the busy and smiling girl in the film and television city again, his heart involuntarily skipped a beat. Liu Jun told himself that he had to protect Yi Lu for the rest of his life. He had to give his best to her. He had to make Yi Lu the happiest woman in the world. He had to help Yi Lu realize her dream of becoming a movie empress. Sister Wan, we're here. Wu Tong's voice rang in Soo-won's ears. Soo-won looked up to see the familiar words, Yu Ding Xian, outside the car window. This was a chain restaurant opened by a director's wife. Soo-won was a frequent customer here. Let's go. Soo-won casually took out her sunglasses and put them on. She quickly walked into the restaurant with Wu Tong. Under the familiar manager's lead, the two came to a very elegant private room. Sister Wan, what do you want to eat? The manager was familiar with Soo-won a long time ago. Although there had been a lot of negative news about Soo-won recently, business people had to smile and greet people. They couldn't be careless at all. Just the same as usual. Soo-won did not look at the menu and lightly whispered a sentence. The lobby manager on the side immediately nodded and quickly retreated. Seeing that the door to the private room was closed, Wu Tong couldn't help but push a chair over to Soo-won and sit down. Sister Wan, what happened? Did the paparazzi find out about that? Humph. Hearing Wu Tong's words, Soo-won snorted coldly. Someone leaked the news in advance and attracted the paparazzi. If I leave late, I'll definitely be caught red-handed. In the original plot, Soo-won was trapped in a hotel room by a group of people. From then on, her reputation plummeted. Because of this, she was even frozen by her own company. All of her contracts and endorsements were stopped. When she returned a year later, she had gone from being an A-lister to a B-lister. At that time, Yi Lu, with Liu Jun's help, steadily made her way in the entertainment circle step by step. She went from an invisible person to the representative of the new generation of little empresses. Yi Lu's success was the most blatant mockery to Soo-won. She used her connections again and even took the initiative to talk to the company's boss. She was willing to lower her status. Unfortunately, time didn't wait for her. The entertainment circle was past its prime. If she didn't have a heaven-defying opportunity, wanting to make a comeback was just a pipe dream. Her career and love didn't go smoothly, causing Soo-won to become addicted to drugs. She sought comfort in the illusion, and she quickly became haggard. In the end, by chance, Soo-won and Yi Lu appeared in the same production team again. This time, she had to act as a supporting role for Yi Lu. Suwon's self-esteem couldn't accept this. She purposely made things difficult for Yilu during filming. In the end, the male lead who came to visit her happened to see her. As a result, Suwon thoroughly angered the male lead. Then, someone reported her for taking drugs. Later, she was suspected of hiding drugs and was arrested. Right now, not only was her career bleak, she even had to face the situation of being imprisoned. Disheartened, Suwon chose to commit suicide in the detention center in the end. This was the life of a cannon fodder movie empress. Suwon sat in Yu Dingxian's private room right now. Her gaze froze and a cold glint flashed in her eyes. Lu Jun, the past life and this life are debts. The original owner paid with her life. This time, I'm going to get an explanation for her. Sister Wan? Feeling Suwon's coldness, Wu Tong couldn't help but become serious. Do you know who harmed you? Heh. Who else could it be? They say that even if we meet again, we're still friends. Lu Jun really did this to me for Yilu. Suwon smiled in disdain. I'll remember this debt. I'll settle it with him in the future. Mr. Lu? Wu Tong's gaze darkened hearing Suwon's words. Lu Jun was rich and powerful. He and Suwon couldn't win against him. Sister Wan, the company will probably give Mr. Lu face. Let's keep a low profile for now. Wu Tong was just a manager. He didn't have much say in the company, but he had been by Suwon's side for 10 years. He naturally sided with Suwon. Low profile? No, Wu Tong, call all the media. I'm terminating my contract with Sinew Entertainment. What? Wu Tong stood up in shock. Sister Wan, you still have 3 years left on your contract. Although she could gain a certain amount of attention by terminating the contract, she needed to pay a large sum of money for breaching the contract. Plus, Sinew Entertainment was one of the top entertainment companies in the circle. Where could Suwon go if she left the company? What development could she get if she went to a small company and became the first sister? What are you nervous for? If there's no one here, there'll be a place for them. Saying this, Suwon waved her phone in her hand. Her fingers slid and stopped on a name in her contact list. Yi Xiaochuan, Yi family's second master. He was the villain who defeated Lu Jun in her past life, but in this life, he could only obediently be cannon fodder in front of the reborn male lead. But even if second master Yi fell, there was still Yi family's third master. Yi family's third master, Yi Shaoling, a financial genius who graduated from a famous overseas university. After Yi Xiaochuan was eliminated by Lu Jun, third master Yi successfully returned to China and took over the great but bitter job of being a villain boss and a passionate supporting male. If there were no surprises, Suwon's identity in this world was definitely Yi Shaoling. Chapter 266. After eating at Yu Dingxian, Suwon and Wu Tong wanted to drive back to the apartment. But the moment they exited the restaurant, they were caught by the reporters waiting at the entrance. Therefore, don't underestimate an entertainment reporter's abilities. Their investigation and counter-investigation abilities were sometimes more professional than the criminal police. Suwon, someone said they saw you and Master Chun checking into a room at the International Hotel. What do you have to say about this? Suwon, someone exposed that you hired a water army to defame Yilu online. Is this true? Surrounded by a large group of people, Suwon watched as their eyes lit up, wishing for her to immediately make a mistake. Suwon just smiled indifferently. I just finished eating. It's not easy being a reporter. Have you all eaten on such a cold day? Do you want me to treat you? The group was silent hearing Suwon's words. In the end, Shiri magazine's reporter reacted first. Suwon, you haven't answered our question yet. Did you go to the International Hotel today? What do you think about Yilu being slandered? Io, you're so dedicated. Suwon still wore a faint smile. I went to the hotel today, but I can't tell you who I want to see for now. If you guys have time tomorrow, you can come to my press conference. Everything will be clear by then. Also, I'm not familiar with Master Chun. He's a master of the upper class and I'm just a small actor. How would I know such a high-level person? Don't write nonsense. I'm actually fine. I'm willing if you guys want to give me more exposure. But I heard that Master Chun is really strong. It wouldn't be good if I accidentally offend him. Speaking till here, Suwon purposely revealed a nervous expression. Her words also successfully made the expressions of the people around her change. Entertainment magazines had always been untrustworthy, and those entertainment reporters had always been untrustworthy. Usually, these stars would take the initiative to cooperate with the media for hype and exposure. For rich and powerful people like Lu Jun and young Master Chen, if their reports did not have real evidence, they really could not write about it. Seeing that the reporters understood, Su-won smiled and continued, "Oh right, you guys just asked who I was. Is it Yi Qin? No, I think it's Yi Lu. Who is Yi Lu?" Saying this, Su-won tilted her head to look at Wu Tong beside her. She wore a confused expression, asking for his help. Seeing Su-won's expression, Wu Tong also furrowed his brows in deep thought. "Yi Lu. She's the person who acted as a substitute for you in the past, right?" It seemed like the internet was saying that she was dating Mr. Lu. She used to like to hang around in front of Mr. Lu. Wu Tong, don't speak nonsense. Su-won smiled and raised her hand to stop Wu Tong's following words. In the entertainment circle, I entertain you and you entertain me. When accepting these reporters' interviews, they had to speak ambiguously. They had to be able to attack or retreat. That was interesting. Su-won, you really don't know Yi Lu? She is Lu Jun's current girlfriend. Yeah. Lu Jun even confessed to Yi Lu on Weibo. Right now, a lot of your fans have been leaving comments on Yi Lu's official Weibo to insult her. Su-won, do you really not know about this? Clearly, the entertainment reporters didn't plan on buying Su-won's bullshit at all. Since they couldn't make an issue out of Master Chin's matter, they had to force Su-won and Yi Lu out no matter what. It would be best if they could make a big fight between old and new love. That way, they would be able to sell it. It seems like everyone is sure that I know her. I've been in the entertainment circle for 12 years. There are at least dozens of people who have acted as substitutes for me, if not 100. I really can't remember that many people. Speaking of Lu Jun, I've already broken up with him. We broke up peacefully due to our personalities being incompatible. I've always been a very rational person. Let's part on good terms. I don't want to say much in case people say that I, Su-won, am using this to gain sympathy. If you guys really care about my current situation, I'll say it again. Come to my press conference tomorrow. I'll definitely answer all your questions. Saying this, Su-won gave Wu Tong a look. Seeing that the two were about to leave, a young female reporter couldn't help but walk up and block Su-won's path. Su-won, you haven't. HM? Apple Daily newspaper? Su-won interrupted the female reporter, her expression a bit playful. Apple Daily newspaper's boss and Lu Jun were good friends. In the past, Su-won had given them quite a bit of exclusive news. Now that she and Lu Jun had a falling out, Apple Daily newspaper was starting to latch onto her. They were really heartless. Wu Tong, remember to notify the security tomorrow. Don't let anyone from Apple Daily newspaper enter the press conference. Hearing Su-won's words, the reporters froze. They had only heard of reporters going against celebrities, but this was the first time they had seen a celebrity so brazenly going against a reporter. Even a big-name movie queen would have to think twice. After all, Apple Daily newspaper was a famous newspaper in the industry. Although its sales couldn't be compared to Shuri's, it was a daily newspaper that specialized in entertainment. Its daily sales were also very impressive. The female reporter froze hearing Su-won's words. Then excitement flickered through her eyes. She grabbed the chance and asked sharply, "Movie Empress Su, are you planning on banning our small newspaper?" Banning? That's an interesting phrase. Su-won smiled, her bright and beautiful eyes sweeping over everyone. In the end, her gaze landed on the female reporter. That's right. That's what I'm going to do. Seal. You. From now on, I, Su-won, ban all reporters from Apple Daily newspaper from entering all of my press conferences and press conferences. Hiss. Everyone sucked in a cold breath. They'd heard of entertainment companies and SARFD banning celebrities, but had they ever seen a celebrity banning a media outlet? Wasn't this a joke? While everyone was still in a daze, Su-won had already pulled Wu Tong into the car and left. In the car, Wu Tong's expression hadn't calmed down yet. Sister Won, what you said today was a joke, right? According to Wu Tong's professional sensitivity, he felt that Su-won purposely said this to divert the media's attention. Tomorrow, Her bold words about banning Apple Daily newspaper would definitely make the headlines. Tomorrow was also the day of her press conference. With this news as the foundation, the press conference tomorrow would definitely be lively. By then, as long as Soo-won thought of a way to make up for what she said today, everyone would be happy. As for slapping herself in the face and whatnot, as an artist, why did they need to care about their reputation? Appearance rate, exposure rate, and fame were what they pursued with all their might. In the car, Soo-won smiled nonchalantly hearing Woo-tong's question. I'm not joking. I'm really going to ban Apple Daily newspaper. Woo-tong was speechless. Damn. Sister Won had been acting weird tonight. Did Lu Jun force her brain to be in a mess? International Hotel, room 5080. While Chun Xiao was making love with the new model, the door of the hotel room was suddenly opened by someone from the outside with a spare room card. Who are you guys? When a group of men in black rushed in, Master Chun only had time to pull a thin blanket to cover his lower body. Master Chun, sorry to disturb you. Following a slightly amused voice, the men in black on both sides automatically moved aside. A young man wearing a white suit walked out leisurely. People who didn't know better would think that he was some society's godfather. Yi Xiaochuan? What are you doing? Master Chan narrowed his eyes and looked at Yi Xiaochuan confusedly. The two naturally knew each other. It was just that they weren't in the same circle, so they rarely saw each other. What was he doing? Yi Xiaochuan's eyes twitched hearing Master Chen's question. Who the hell knew what he was doing? Cough. Third brother. Yi Xiaochuan smiled and held his phone. Looking at the handsome man with a hazy gaze in the video, he said calmly, the Master Chun you're looking for is here. Amen. There's also a model next to him. Her figure isn't bad. Do you want to take a look? Where's Soo-won? The person in the video asked coldly without a change in expression. Hey, our third brother is asking you. Where's Soo-won? Hearing his brother's words, Yi Xiaochuan immediately turned the phone and pointed the camera at Master Chin's pale and skinny face. Master Chin's gaze flickered hearing Yi Xiaochuan's question. He had played with many women over the years. What kind of situation hadn't he encountered? Seeing the Yi brothers' imposing manner, Master Chin immediately felt confident. You're looking for Miss Sue? I'm not familiar with her. Plus, it's impossible for me to see her in this hotel, but I have her manager's number. I can give it to you. Speak. The cold voice continued to ring through the video. Master Chan was straightforward. He took the phone and found Woo-tong's number, reading it out loud. Beep beep. As soon as Master Chan said this, Yi Xiaochuan's video signal was cut off. Yi Xiaochuan, screw you. Would it kill you to chat with your brother more? Chapter 267. Soo-won's apartment was in the 3rd ring road. She used all of her savings to buy this apartment after winning an award 5 years ago. It was a gift to reward herself. Other people only saw the glamorous appearance of an artist, but in reality, their expenses were also frighteningly huge. Every time they walked the red carpet, those expensive jewelry and gowns would cost 6 or even 7 figures to custom make. For an artist of Soo-won's level, this was still within the scope of what they could afford. As for those 2nd or even 3rd-tier artists, the gowns they wore on the red carpet were borrowed by sponsors. Both parties mutually benefited, and they had to return it after wearing it once. Of course, there were some third-rate celebrities who wore pirated gowns on the red carpet to gain attention. But to be honest, in this era, the media had to support and report on you to gain exposure. If the media didn't care about you, it was useless even if you ran naked on the red carpet. To celebrities, the media was like fish and water. Therefore, it was rare to see celebrities who dared to openly challenge the media like Soo-won. However, Soo-won wasn't really arrogant and conceited. With the competition between traditional media and online media, Apple Daily newspaper's performance kept on declining. Many new media had more influence than them. Back then, when Soo-won and Lu Jun were together, they helped Apple Daily newspaper offend many other media outlets. Now, Soo-won planned on trampling Apple Daily newspaper to death and then working with other media outlets that she thought highly of. This was the wisest choice. Sister Won, rest well? Woo-tong's expression was complicated seeing Soo-won sitting on the sofa in a daze after returning to her room. He hesitated for a while, wanting to say something, but his phone suddenly rang. Not many people knew about Wu Tong's private number. Therefore, after the phone rang, Wu Tong picked it up. "Give the phone to Su Wan." A very cold male voice rang from the phone. Wu Tong felt his scalp tingle hearing this voice. Who are you?" Though Wu Tong was shocked by the imposing voice, as a professional manager, he naturally wouldn't let his celebrity pick up an unknown person's phone. "I'm Yi Shaoling." "Yi Shaoling?" Wu Tong couldn't help but ask, a trace of surprise in his voice. He'd heard of this name before. Yi Shaoling, Yi family's third master. "Give me the phone." At this time, Su Wan naturally heard Wu Tong's exclamation. Her gaze flickered and she stood up. Oh. Wu Tong subconsciously passed the phone to Su Wan. In the end, Su Wan turned around and walked into her bedroom with the phone. "I'm Su Wan." Su Wan closed the bedroom door, leaned against the wall, and softly whispered. Hearing her voice, the person on the other end of the phone couldn't help but chuckle. "Wife, it's me. Did that Chin guy do anything to you?" "Heh." Su Wan smiled and slowly walked to the bedside with the phone. She laid comfortably on the big bed and looked at the bright crystal lamp on the ceiling. Her voice was light and quick as she replied, "What can he do to me? I, your wife, am not as weak as you think." Su Wan had been through too many mission worlds and seen all kinds of joys and sorrows. Speaking of the ability to protect herself, she actually had a lot. Hearing Su Wan's answer, Su Rue naturally heaved a sigh of relief. If that person surnamed Chen dared to touch a single strand of his wife's hair, General Su would definitely make him die miserably. "Are you still abroad?" Actually, when Su Wan picked up the phone, she saw the number and knew that it was an international call. Thinking about it, it made sense. If Su Rue was really in the country, he would have appeared in front of her a long time ago. He definitely wouldn't have just made a phone call. "Amen," Su Rue answered on the phone. "There are some very important things to take care of at home. I can't get away for a while. I'll send you my eldest and second brother's private numbers in a while. If you have something, call them. No need to go through so much trouble." Su Wan smiled. "I can handle Lu Jun by myself." Maybe in other people's eyes, Su Wan was a small celebrity and Lu Jun. They weren't on the same level as the dignified CEO Lu Jun. But in Su Wan's eyes, Lu Jun was just an ordinary mission target in the many worlds she had experienced. Reborn? She'd seen a lot. Worth tens of billions? She'd made a lot of people bankrupt too. Actually, mission enforcers who were familiar with the plot and had been through many worlds had countless professional skills. They had many ways to kill someone. But Su Wan always thought that attacking a person's heart was the best. It was easy to make someone die, but it was hard to make them regret and wish they were dead. Hearing Su Wan's answer, Su Rue couldn't help but smile. "I know you can do it by yourself, but you have me now. I don't want you to be so tired." The two of them were together. He wanted to spoil her and give her the best in the world. "I'm not tired at all after having you. Speaking of which, I seem to have caused you to keep dropping in the rankings. Your points haven't increased in a long time, right?" Su Wan suddenly thought of an important question. Su Rue used to be in the top 10 of their department. Who knew how far he'd been ranked now? Actually, she didn't have to complete the mission. If Su Rue was willing, she could even take the initiative to help him matchmake the male and female lead. This was a really easy thing to do. "Wife." Hearing Su Wan's words, Su Rue thought for a moment. "You'll go to the test, right?" "Test." Hearing Su Rue mention this, Su Wan's expression suddenly changed. "Did Su choose you?" Su Wan was a bit shocked, but then she thought of Su Rue's heaven-defying perception and immediately calmed down. This Su really didn't miss anything. He was really cunning. Su, he knows of my relationship with you. When I went back this time, he already submitted our department's name list. Wife, you should know that based on my ranking and qualifications, I actually can't be selected. This time, it was Su's unilateral decision. At the same time, he also proposed a condition. He wants to seal my memory before entering the test space. What? Hearing Su Rue's words, Su Wan suddenly sat up from the bed. So, you're saying, that's right. This time, Su Rue's voice became a bit strange. At that time, we'll be enemies. Wife, I won't go easy on you. So, You don't have to worry about my points. As expected, General Sue, you're as confident as ever. It seems like you're determined to get the points reward for first place. Humph, Soo-won couldn't help but snort. Don't look down on others too much. I'm telling you, there are hidden talents in every department. Even if you can find everyone, can you guarantee that you have the ability to annihilate everyone? Annihilate? That's a pretty good suggestion. Su-rue, who was thousands of miles away, was currently sitting on a rocking chair. His gaze was serene as he held his phone and listened to Soo-won's words. The corners of his lips curled up and a silent smile flitted across his handsome face. The two chatted for a long time until Wu-tong's phone ran out of battery. Soo-won then told Su-rue her number. In the end, General Sue's heart ached for his wife. In order to let her rest early, he reluctantly hung up the phone. Soo-won put down the phone and changed into her home clothes. She was planning on taking a shower and going to sleep when she suddenly remembered that she seemed to have forgotten something. She turned to leave the bedroom. As expected, she saw Wu-tong still lying on the sofa listlessly. You haven't left yet? Soo-won couldn't help but ask. Wu-tong was speechless. Sister Won, my phone? Wu-tong answered weakly. He wasn't curious about Soo-won and Yi Xiaoling's relationship. He was really just waiting for his phone because he promised his girlfriend that she would call him tonight. A phone? It's out of battery. Soo-won suddenly returned to the bedroom and handed the phone with a black screen to Wu-tong. No. Battery? You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.